Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, law nerds. I can't believe it's the end of July. It's July 30th. And we have a very special episode today. Emily, does that mean you're going to be talking more about marching band? At some point, probably. But no, today we are joined by Robert Alessi. I know he has been not only a favorite of the law nerds, but a linguistic inspiration. All of you have expanded your vocabulary through the Karen Reed case and want to know more about Mr. Alessi, his journey in law, being a licensed pharmacist, and more. Yesterday, I asked a ton of you in the Law Nerd Lounge in the app if you had questions. I've incorporated those into my questions. I will do my best to be mindful of time so we can get to your questions as well. And I know that you know this because you are law nerds, but just as a reminder, there will be things that I am not going to ask that you're like, Emily, I really wanted you to ask. There are some things that as an attorney, you cannot talk about based on not only rules of ethics, but your confidentiality with your client. And we, of course, aren't going to push into those topics because I know there are things you want to know about first and foremost, and we are going to have that chat. So law nerds, welcome to a chat. I see how excited you are. You're already, look, you guys, if you already start with the marriage proposals, his wife is never going to let him come back on our program. Okay. You have to be chill. Law nerds, behave. Behave. I know the marriage proposals. I already see them. But we'll ask the questions because I have questions and you have questions. And all of you want to know, first and foremost, if Mr. Alessi knew about the Law Nerd word of the day that was inspired by him. And we're going to talk about it. So we're going to roll the intro. Let me know where you're coming in from, what you're drinking. I have a cappuccino. It seemed appropriate because, Dr. B didn't make it. I made it this morning, but we're going to ask about that too. So let's roll the intro. Let's get into our convo. You guys ready? I know you are. I can see it in the chat. Let's go. Hey there. I'm lawyer and legal analyst Emily D. Baker, and this is your go-to destination for live court coverage. I break down the law, the strategy, and the evidence in real time so you know what's happening. No law degree required. So join the law nerds in the chat. They're here for the facts, not and let's get to court. Mr. Alessi, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here with the law nerds and to have a chat with you today. Thank you so much for making the time.
Well, thank you, Emily. I'm very excited to be here. Looking forward to having the conversation with you and your wonderful audience, the law nerds.
I mean, it's a really surreal thing going through a high-profile public trial, and I think that you have, done a very good job of making sure that your life is not online, which is wonderful because I am sure people have looked for all of the information. But one of the things that we saw a lot during trials, the law nerds want to know more about the lawyers involved, not just in this case, but others, and know more about their background, how they prep for trial, their organization, things like that. And we just haven't had a chance to connect and talk about it. You've been incredibly busy. I've been incredibly busy. And it's a hard thing because right after the trial, everyone wants to talk about trial strategy and what it's like in the high profile case. But we also want to go a little deeper and get to know more about you. And chat, I have to let you know, I know we haven't seen Mr. Alessi in solo interviews very much. That was at my request. It is not to break up the incredible duo that is Alessi and Yanetti, but it's easier for me just being very ADHD to have a one-to-one conversation. And Mr. Alessi was so kind to agree. And we will have to not only have both of you on at some point, but also have the same chat with Mr. Yanetti and Miss Little if she would like to, because we want to know the lawyers more. And I think a high-profile trial like this is a great opportunity to highlight the best our profession has to offer. And you are definitely that. So thank you for that. I know that you are traveling for work. I've made a joke with the law nerds that if you're on an airplane, there's probably a lawyer heading to a deposition at some point. So I assume that is similar to what you are doing now.
That is correct, and that is why I have the challenging background. With all apologies, it's the least painful background that I could find.
I was traveling during the verdict, and I was so optimistic with those early juror questions. I was like, oh, good, we're almost there. Great, we're going to have a verdict. And then we just didn't. And I was in literally the most awkward spot. My Wi-Fi was killing me as I was at YouTube headquarters trying to stream trial, which was an adventure, but it is life. You are a partner at DLA Piper in New York. and you generally practice in environmental and finance. So coming into a criminal trial is different, but not that different because you do a lot of work with experts. What kind of experts do you work with in your kind of more usual legal practice?
I work with experts in virtually every field. To give you an idea of the spectrum, it can go from geologists, hydrogeologists, physicists. I used to defend the power lines caused me cancer cases for the utility industry worldwide. So I've had epidemiologists, every type of medical doctor for that. I defend high profile product liability cases. So every type of scientist that goes into making pharmaceuticals. I also do practice criminal law, but it's white collar criminal law, insider trading, and particularly in the financial services industry. Foreign Corruption Practices Act translated is the allegations that a company in the United States and individuals have bribed a foreign official to get business. So I do enter the criminal realm, but I call, as some others have, this type of case, the Karen Reed case, sort of the more blood and guts, blue collar, if you will, crime, which is definitely not something I do. But in terms of experts, you name it, and I've had it, accountants, it runs the gamut. And I absolutely love it. I love the technical aspect, the STEM, and I feel like I get an education, almost like a college degree each time I have a case. So it's also enjoyable.
I think it's something that people don't always see is how much a lot of lawyers need to like to learn, because it really is, they call it the practice of law, but you are constantly learning, but you also have the experts that you are working with to help educate you. And you almost get to pick the best in a field to give you an education in what you are learning about. And it's very clear that you are someone who enjoys learning and also likes rising to the challenge of being an expert in that field for that trial. You also, as the law nerds know, went to school to become a licensed pharmacist. I think there was a day when it came up in the chat that you have this entire different background. You didn't just say, well, I'm going to get an undergrad in political science and go to law school, and this is the trajectory. So you went to undergrad and got a Bachelor of Science looking towards pharmacy and then went to pharmacy school. How did you decide to go into pharmacy in the first place before we get to that shift?
Yeah, how I got into pharmacy was I loved chemistry in high school. And I just went into the guidance counselor's office and said, I have no idea where to go to college. I don't know what major I should have. And back then it was sort of assumed you'd pick a major. And so he said, well, what do you like to do? And I said, I love chemistry. And he said, go in the green file in the alphabetical order and look at pharmacist, and then come back to me after you read it. So I did. And I said, looks great to me. And it wasn't any more complicated than that. And I went to pharmacy school. I absolutely loved it. I didn't love calculus, but I liked physics and chemistry and all the rest. I graduated. I became, you have to sit for a board and licensure. I became licensed. And actually, I went directly to law school. But on Sundays, because there was a pharmacist shortage in law school, and you couldn't keep a pharmacy open without a pharmacist there, I would, in my left hand, bring my law books, my right hand, the little TV to watch a football or a baseball game because it wasn't that busy. And then I'd get a check in the mail every week. And it was like Pavlov's dog, and it was kind of hard to let go of that. But I love practicing pharmacy. And I'll stop there. But that's how I came to be a pharmacist. And there's nothing better. Pharmacists have such a high standing with the community, trust, everything else. They serve obviously a very vital role. And the last thing I'll say about becoming a pharmacist and then going to law school, when I told my mother I wanted to go to law school, she said, oh, that's great. You're going to go from the top of the trust and honor all the way to the bottom in one fell swoop. Congratulations.
Oh, that's such a mother thing to say. And it's It's unfortunately true. There are those in our profession that give it a not as desirable reputation, and I've covered some of those cases, like Alec Murdaugh out of South Carolina, Tom Girardi out of Los Angeles, who was, held up and lauded. Especially, I'm from Los Angeles. I practiced in LA, as one of the shining examples of what plaintiff's law could be. And his clients weren't getting that money. He's in prison now where he belongs, but it took way too long because the state bar was, the former members of the state bar that were there were working with him, or they had family members employed by him. And that's my son. I'm sorry, that's binging. And it was really a devastating thing to see how long he was able to steal from clients for. And so seeing attorneys like yourself, who not only practice ethically, but hold court in a very high regard, hold law in a very high regard, is incredibly important. How did you decide, to switch from pharmacy to law? Where did that desire to continue learning take place? Because a lot of people don't see law school as fun. I imagine that you enjoyed it very much.
I absolutely love law school. I could have done 12 years of law school, socially and academically. How I switched was pretty straightforward. My grandfather was huge into philosophy. I was a philosophy minor. They didn't have any philosophy courses at pharmacy school, so I went to the other part of the university, to take those courses. And so there was that, and my grandfather taught me logic and critical thinking. And then on top of that, I was the president of the New York State Student Pharmaceutical Society of the state of New York. And there was an attorney who was the attorney for the Pharmaceutical Society, who was just a very dynamic individual. And I just thought, wow, that what he does, not necessarily subject matter, but just the way he talked, the way he comported himself, I thought was great. So the end of the story is I was going on for my PhD in pharmacy at the University of Cincinnati, and it was fantastic. Excuse me.
No worries. Live is dynamic.
I had the hiccups there for a bit.
Oh, live is dynamic. Also, court. Everything can happen in court. We'll
Yes.
talk about those stories later. You spend a lot of time in court, things are going to go sideways. So no need to apologize.
Thank you. So I said, I'm accepted into law school, accepted into this wonderful program for a doctor of pharmacy. Would you consider holding it open for a year? And I always am forever grateful to the University of Cincinnati, because they said yes. Had they said no, I would have just gone on to get my doctorate in pharmacy, but they said yes. I gave law school a try. Aside from first semester, which was a little rough, making the transition from pharmacy school to law school, I absolutely loved it. So it was really a bit of I'll give it a try type situation. I was genuinely interested, but that's how it all happened, a bit of happenstance.
I imagine that your background in not just pharmacy, but in sciences has really helped with your trajectory into work with experts, because not all attorneys either enjoy or have the background to want to learn what the experts are talking about. And I imagine being able to speak their language has served you incredibly well. We saw that in trial, that you are looking at an expert being like, I know your field as well as you do. Now let's have a conversation.
Yes, exactly. First of all, I never am going to be able to be as facile with the subject matter as the experts, but I do know the language.
The good ones.
Yeah. I can, for cross-examination purposes, I'd like to believe I can get the job done. But in terms of overall subject matter, and I'll learn the subject matter of the trial, hopefully as well as they know it. But second point is, yes, my technical background was amazingly efficacious for me to be able to do what I do in the law. In a bit of humor, I was the one, for example, in physics class, and I had to, we had calculus-based physics, And I was the wise guy in the classroom saying, why do we have to learn this stuff to practice pharmacy? This is just torturous discipline to all of us. And lo and behold, while I really didn't use it that much in pharmacy, I've used it a lot. I have a lot of energy cases, and I sit there reading things in the predicates for which I learned in pharmacy school and saying to myself, thank God for pharmacy school. In all of those topics I complained about. And yes, there's been a direct translation in many ways.
Yes, I was the one complaining about physics as everyone was talking about it so eloquently. And I think the chat decided that you started taking physics in elementary school. I think some actually might have memed online that you did not take physics, you in fact invented it. So it was very fun to see that back and forth, because I am definitely not a sciences girl. I had worked as a research attorney, and I was like, there's not enough talking in this job. I love the research side, but I also love the connection, which is why trial work was so appealing to me. But I'm not surprised at all about your background with both the sciences and philosophy, because you very clearly have not just a love of language, but a love of using language in argumentation in law. And that is a very different thing that you don't see with not only just every attorney, but also with newer attorneys leaning into the elegance of that type of argument. It's something that I've commented we see in federal court a bit more, where things are briefed out about a bit more fulsomely than you would see in state court. And so it was fun to see you bring that elevation into state court, where there were times where we didn't even have time to do written briefs on things. The judge was like, can we just handle this now? And everybody would just stand up on their feet and be like, I think I've got the cases with me, let's go. And it's a very different thought process moving that quickly than getting to sit down and really write your briefs, which was very clear that you not only enjoyed writing your briefs, but took pride in writing for yourself, which as a partner, some of the law nerds will get and some will be surprised, but that's not common.
No, so you're absolutely right, and you're on point. I believe communication for a lawyer involves both oral and written, and as you know, Emily, most of the practice of law is written, to my sometimes consternation, but accepting of it. I think there may not be two people on this earth who like to talk more than you and me, but I'll leave it at that. The woe and lament of how much writing dominates the practice of law as opposed to oral advocacy.
I know, it's so much fun. And with oral advocacy, you've not just argued in state court, federal court, appeals court, but you've also argued at the United States Supreme Court, which I don't know if a lot of the law nerds know.
Yeah, it's, in terms of oral advocacy, my approach and my style, for better or for worse, is pretty much the same no matter which court I am in. I try to just be myself, be well prepared. But you get to that point where you're on, right? You're up for the argument. And to me, it's just, it flows naturally, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, but I usually keep pretty much the same style. Judge Cannoni, I think, tell him what you're going to tell him, and then tell him what you told him. May or may not have been used to that, but yes, it's oral advocacy in various courts, to me, make it fun. And I do adapt to the courts to a certain degree, of course.
I will say I very much appreciate the tell them what you're going to tell them. I find it helps the court follow along with where you're going, but it's a unique case that you also have, like the viewers at home, but it really not only lines out for the court your argument, but it also helps them orient to what you're saying. And I find it helps judges be a bit more engaged if you tell them where you're going. And there are different judges with different temperaments that are like, I've read the briefs. I don't want to hear what's in the briefs again. I want just to hear things that are new. And different judges approach that in very different ways. One of the things that we found through the Karen Reed case is we were covering some of the appeals work, and I don't often deep dive into cited cases we do a lot of live court and going over the documents in court. But there was a fact scenario in one of the appellate cases with a juror missing, and I couldn't help myself but go on a deep dive for this case that came out of Puerto Rico and read all of the underlying opinions. And then we came across a First Circuit district judge, or appellate judge, the late Judge Selya, who has a love for language. And while we were going through that fact scenario, it was one of the most well-written opinions that I've ever read from an appellate court. And it was hilarious, his use of language. What we learned through that, as we did a deep dive on this jurist, is that his law clerks had a game that they would play in trying to submit things to him with a word that might get used in his briefing or in his opinions. And so Judge Selya started to be known for Selya-isms. And as we started the Alessi word of the day, we were taking inspiration from Judge Selya and his words, and kind of keeping track of the vocabulary that is expanded for many. And it was really just a joy to not only see your love of language, but bringing that into the court. The only, I think, disappointment the law nerds felt was that you never got the opportunity to use crapulous in this case, which was a word I frankly had never heard of. And as I was reading a law clerk's rundown of his work with the judge, the different law clerks had word of the day calendars to try to find the best word to weave into an opinion. And this law clerk had won with crapulous, getting into an opinion and the different things that Judge Selya would work in. Do you ever have, well, we called it a word game at the DA's office, but words that you are weaving in as either an inside joke or a nod to something you enjoy in your either written or oral advocacy?
I do. And I think what helps the assimilation process of new vocabulary is making it fun. Be it you try to force in, or as you say more eloquently, weave in a word that you've read. Maybe you saw it in a movie. Maybe it was in a comedy situation. The word came out. It sticks in your head, and then you look for an opportunity to use it in the practice law and brief writing. I do that in terms of in my law firm. There's probably endless commentary about my vocabulary and what's going to be used and what's going to be acceptable. I have the research memos done, and every once in a while, for mentoring, I'll tell people, okay, go, write the brief for this. Don't be disheartened if I read your brief and I just write my own. And very similar to what you just described, that almost without exception, at least one word not commonly used is found in there, in part to show their competency with the English language, but also to see if I'm going to bite on it, take it, and use it. So I know that process well. I just believe there's just many, many wonderful things that come from doing those things with vocabulary, but most of all, to underscore, it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we referred to it as the word game. And so did Judge Selya's law clerks. And it's so funny to me because a lot of us started practicing before social media. We're not on social media in law school because it just wasn't what it is today or at all. And so it's funny to me that this is a phenomenon that spans, East Coast to West Coast, from district attorney's office and public defenders to esteemed law firms like yours, that there is a level of lawyers wanting to not just amuse themselves, but also give a nod to other lawyers within their work. And it is something that I hadn't thought about in a while until I had seen the law clerks really effusing over Judge Selya and his vocabulary and how they would try to place words. I'm like, oh, we did that all the time. And we would generally, somebody would have to buy lunch if you could weave a word into a closing argument or not. And your peers would come and watch trial to see if you had gotten whatever word they had pulled that needed to be placed into your closing arguments. But it's rare to have an audience in trial. And so when a few of your colleagues showed up, it was like, oh, wow, there's actually people that aren't in the jury box in the courtroom, because normally it's empty.
Yes, and to give you one example, as people may have heard, we had just fabulously talented law clerks from Harvard Law School and from Boston College Law School. And for the Karen Reed trial, at least I think on 2 or 3 occasions from their research memos, I pulled a word, actually one time a word I was not familiar with, looked it up, and then actually ended up using it. And I remember specifically the motion I used it in. It was in the where the Commonwealth was trying to get at the communications between David Yanetti and Karen Reed, saying that the attorney-client privilege had been waived. And there was a word that I used that one of the law clerks had put in her research memo, and I didn't need to point it out. She was in court. She saw the submission, and it made her happy. And I told her it made me even more happy.
It's a one. The law nerds are asking, what is the word? Because I definitely don't remember. So if you don't mind sharing, if you don't mind,
I'd love to share. I can't remember what it was. It began.
I'll go find. No, I'll find it. I'll find that submission.
If you find the submission, it began with a C.
I will.
Conica. I can't. I can come close, but it's kind of something.
I remember reading the submissions, and we probably looked it up on stream. So we'll just go back to the stream and timestamp it again, because we would have brought it up as our word of the day, because we were bringing in Alessi words of the day, except for the one time that Jackson said "shank of the evening," which I had also never heard. And "shank of the evening" became kind of the phrase of the day, because it was such one of those moments in court where the witness was confused. Jackson was confused that the witness was confused. And we were all sitting there going, I have never heard anyone say "shank of the evening." And then it went from there. So
yeah, it's something along the line conical. And I know what the meaning is. I just can't spell it, but it's something along the lines of it comes from sort of a biblical term. It's almost like a so enrooted, it's like biblical in terms of its stature, in terms of acceptance. Sort of like a canonical example of something. It's a synonym might be paradigmatic.
Perfect. It was, I think, really fun to see, because language has gotten so loose. And I have a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old. So sometimes the English language that I hear them speaking with their friends is not necessarily what I am familiar with all of the time. And so it's really fun to see a lean in, and then to see that law students still really enjoy rising to the challenge of language, because lawyering really is using your words. That is the profession of law, is being able to express yourself, be understood, but also sometimes be vague and specific at the same time, which is always a fun challenge with law, because you have to leave it broad enough that you don't back yourself into a corner, but specific enough that you get what you want. Exactly. So I think one of the things that the law nerds were really blown away by is that you, through your firm, were working pro bono on the Karen Reed case. But for those outside of law, I know that there is an understanding that this means the client is not paying, but I don't know if there is as well of an appreciation, not just what that means for you, but what that means for your law firm, because that is, for a trial of that length with as much pretrial litigation as went on, it's a significant undertaking for a firm to have a partner pro bono on a case out of state. It's really an unusual and kind of incredible thing. If you could share a little bit about how, not just how your firm does that, but how that worked for you to be pro bono on this case out of state.
Yeah, I'm so proud of my firm, DLA Piper. It's a fantastic firm. Not to run the commercial, it's the largest law firm in the United States. It's the third largest in the world. We have a widely acclaimed pro bono program. We have a very, very strong commitment. It's part of our cultural fabric to do representation to those in need at no cost. So our firm is well known for it. However, our firm does not do trial level murder cases. We'll do an innocence project type case on appeal. It's much more constrained. It's much more measured. I went to the firm, they had asked me to consider coming on the trial team the first time, and you guys got it. And, and I'm kind of busy. Then the second time when David Yanetti came to me, I didn't watch really a lot of the first trial, but I didn't like what I saw in terms of what was going on in law enforcement. And I said, I need to get involved. My firm supported me. It wasn't easy. Wasn't easy for people to understand why our firm of our stature was going to go into a highly publicized case where someone's accused of murdering a police officer of all things. And so I'm very, very proud of my firm. What does it mean? I mean, I was supposed to come on and do a couple experts, and that was really going to be pretty much it. And then, the Commonwealth started trying to pick off the experts in terms of Daubert's the pretrial, and you're absolutely right. There was a heavy pretrial aspect. So I was supposed to just sort of start with the trial in January, whenever it was going to start. And I was going full bore in November, getting ready for the Daubert hearings. And again, my firm was fabulous. I blew past by probably a factor of 20 the hours that I estimated I was going to be participating. And to your point, Emily, it's not just my time, it's the lost opportunity to my firm. And it was essentially 6 months. And at my hourly rate, 6 months of work gets into 7 figures.
Yeah.
And in terms of, not that things should all be a monetary figure, but that's real. And my firm supported me. Not once did any one of my partners peep one word about how much time I was spending, the lost revenue from it. And I will also say, my clients, and I have significant energy companies, financial services companies, were so gracious and so patient with me to allow me to do this. So in order to make it work, a lot of people, in addition to myself and in addition to my firm, had to make a sacrifice. And that's what's just so spectacular about this whole atmosphere, is to use the tired cliche, for me to do this, it did take a village.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's not just, as you said, your work opportunity cost, your work to your clients, your own cases. 6 months in law is a substantial amount of time and energy, but also you brought up really incredibly the high profile nature of the case. Your firm's name wouldn't have been connected to this case had it not been for you going to ask. It's not the kind of case they do. And it's a firm that's really well known in the areas it's known in. But if you are not in those areas and doing those things, you might not know, because you're not doing high profile Hollywood type cases and things like that. It is very much within its sector. So that is also a cost, or a potential cost, that in 1996 looks a lot different than in 2025. The potential social media aspect of that comes up, but also it's not just your time, because I imagine you have help at the firm and those on your team that you work with regularly, from attorneys and paralegals and other team members. And I imagine they were helping with this as well.
Well, the answer is not a lot, because that was one of my commitments to the firm, that I wasn't going to, in addition to myself, draw other firm resources. I made that commitment when I understood I was just going to have a couple of expert witnesses. I didn't honor that commitment, absolutely, and the firm was great in this regard. I have a paralegal who's worked with me for, I think, 35 years. Her name is Carol Clark. My career would not be where it is today without her. She was fully engaged and sacrificed a lot herself to keep. She was supposed to be sort of holding up the fort a little bit for me, and I couldn't do the level that the team asked me to get to without her. So Carol Clark was fully engaged, the best paralegal in the country. And then I had an associate here and there. I'd say, do a little bit more research on this topic, double check this research. And they were good. So there were about 4 associates, but I didn't go to them much. Most of it I did on my own. but just knowing they were there, and I would, as most people know, I don't sleep much. So I'd be sending them those, I don't know what they call them, Sunday scaries. Unfortunately, people work with me. They get Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Sunday scaries at about 2:30 in the morning. They were great. They would turn things around. So I did draw upon Carol a lot, but for the rest, while they were available when I needed them, I was quite circumspect about how much I was going to pull other resources from the firm.
Absolutely. And I know we have a lot of paralegals in our audience. I get asked a lot from individuals that are interested in becoming paralegals. And at the district attorney's office, our resources were minimal. We did not have paralegals that worked with us. It was the attorney doing their work. And maybe you had a law clerk, maybe you had a junior attorney to help. But that relationship is incredibly special. And to have a 30+ year relationship means you essentially have an externalized version of yourself that is thinking in time with you, knows what you are going to need, anticipates those needs, and even can see gaps in things you might have missed. It's a really special and incredible working relationship. And so I love that you shared how much work Carol did on this case and with you, probably because, well, you've worked together so long, she absolutely knows, no, he's going to need this. And it's a completely necessary part of law, and law does not move forward. And lawyers do not move forward without paralegals. It just doesn't happen.
You're absolutely right. And I'll add to that my legal practice specialist, which is the 2025 version of legal secretary, Angie Kellner. She's worked with me for 32 years. So the team of us all are 30+ years working together. And you couldn't be more right about them catching things, doing things without it being asked. And one I think stark example was I was in a 15-day trial with a very skilled technical expert on all things fish effects of power plants on water bodies.
Right.
A quite scintillating topic, just kidding.
No, I'm a nerd. So I'm just like, actually, there's a lot of room to have that conversation about how it might change marine bodies. But then again,
Yep.
I am a giant nerd. So yes, I find most things fascinating, and I am generally an enthusiast for nerdiness. So
I am as well. And so I'm in the middle of cross-examining this expert. It was going pretty well. And he raised an issue in one of his answers. And I said, oh, this is going to be good. I can go at him now on this. And then I started looking for a document, and I couldn't find it. And I, was taking a little bit more time than I usually did for the pace of that cross. All of a sudden, over my shoulder comes a laptop from Carol with the document that I was thinking about that I needed to cross him on, opened up on the computer. That's how good she is.
that's incredible that she knows not just you, but your case that well, and could tell that you were giving yourself space to find that answer while you were asking other questions. It's really, truly an incredible thing. And it speaks to also you as a lawyer, because there are plenty of lawyers who do not have a 30+ year relationship with those that work with them, because the people around them cannot be there for 30+ years. And so it speaks to you too, as an attorney, that your team works so well together. And it's one of the things that was unique to see with the Karen Reed defense team is how well you all worked together. You could tell just from my side of the screen that there was a level of trust and respect amongst the team for who was handling what, and knowing that when something was handled, it was absolutely handled. And that is something you don't always see when you have lawyers that are incredibly well respected, each and on their own. You generally will have a more senior lawyer and junior lawyers. But in a case like that, you did not. You had all very experienced senior trial attorneys working together as a team, which is incredibly unique. And you had said earlier, it was Yanetti who brought you into this case. How did the two of you originally meet?
Yeah, David and I originally met on another case. There was a person who needed an attorney. It was an alleged domestic violence case. the person who was searching for the attorney just went on the internet and found David Yanetti's name. I knew that person pretty well, and I knew the person, sort of a high-profile person, was accused of domestic violence. And so David was hired, and David would ask for my thoughts every once in a while. I tried not to be the helicopter attorney on the matter. It's hard, but it's easy with David Yanetti. He is so fantastically skilled as an attorney in all regards. He's brilliant, and he's also one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet. And he's got Riz off the charts. We, he conferred with me on a few things, and we just got along famously on the case. He got a fabulous result. The jury was out for all of 1 hour and 45 minutes, came back with a not guilty on every count. All thanks to David's wonderful lawyering skills. And so after that, during that case, he said, I've got this other case I'm working on that's got some similar undertones. And it was just getting underway, and it was the Karen Reed case. So he started talking to me about it. And so that's how I met David Yanetti. One of the greatest events in my life was being connected up with David Yanetti.
It's really been fun just on our end to see that relationship grow and to see you in interviews together. Did I see correctly that you both are considering a podcast together?
Yes, we are. And we're actually in efforts right now to make that happen. It's not going to be a podcast, I don't think, Emily, like yours and others. I don't know if I could ever meet that standard. It's going to be more general topics. Certainly the law is going to be a big part of it. But we're working on it. My daughter, Laura, who's very talented in many areas, is helping. And then we have her significant other, Evan, who's brilliant. He sold his company. It was in the Wall Street Journal. I've got just fantastic people. And most importantly, I've got David Yanetti. And so we're taking a little bit of time there to get there. We want to do it right. But yes, I believe we've crossed that threshold of, are we going to do it? And now it's in execution, and we're going to try to get off right. And we may have a very unique way of how we build the podcast coming, but more to come. So yes, thank you for mentioning that, but I think that's going to become a reality. If I had to say what time, I think probably after Labor Day, but there may be some things before then, podcasting and streaming about how it is we're going to build the podcast. So more to come.
That's fantastic. Please keep me in the loop so I can keep the Lawnards in the loop. And if you both would like to come back and talk about it as you get closer to launching, the invitation is open, and it would be lovely to have you both talk about it. But I think what I do is unique into its own because it works for me and my personality. I have always run commentary on everything my entire life. Even when I didn't in court, my face did. And so there were definitely bench officers that would just look at me and be like, but Miss Baker, your face. And I'm like, I'm sorry. It's my face. It has subtitles. It just is what it is. And so now I get to do that without the fear of being told to go grab my checkbook because my face has caused displeasure from the bench. But I think that the camaraderie and the kind of brother-in-law bromance that you two have has been lovely. And I think people would love to see a almost Jason, Kelsey, Travis, Kelsey style podcast where you guys connect and talk about whatever's going on, what's going on in your lives, worlds, the things you are interested in or just going on. And that's not only a fun way for the two of you to have a conversation, but I think everybody would love to be a part of a fly on the wall and see that conversation. So I love that idea.
That's a very gracious offer of yours, Emily. Thank you. And I can tell you, I'll take you up on it.
Please do. It's something we got asked about a lot because people wanted to hear more from you. And in our field, you often get to have those conversations with other lawyers, but to bring, when you are not insanely busy in camp, but you get to bring that to a broader audience to understand not just more about the human side of lawyering, but also how you think. I mean, they tell you in law school that lawyers think different. I find that people opt into law because they already are somewhat inclined to think that way. And so it's always wonderful to have that perspective and conversation shared so that people can engage with them. I also think it not just humanizes the practice, but shows people what can be the best in our profession. And oftentimes our profession is highlighted for what is not the best. And so it's really lovely to see. I'm excited that you guys are going to be podcasting. I also am excited because there have been some clips from behind the scene that were sent to me because the law nerds, anytime they see anything, they send it all over. And I'm sure you saw the explosion in your emails and anywhere you have social after this trial. But I got some clips of you introducing Alan Jackson to one of my favorite things in the world, the Chirp Wheel. What was happening with Alan Jackson's back and your Chirp Wheel during the Reed trial?
Yeah, so I'm not bound by HIPAA because I was not practicing as a medical professional, but I do want to be somewhat discreet for AJ. AJ was
Fair
having
enough.
a back issue, and he, in my judgment, was going about curing it the exact incorrect way. And so I have a lot of what I call prophylactic measures. I work out a lot to prevent, to avoid issues. And that device that you saw is one of them. So our hotel rooms were on the same floor, just opposite sides of the floor. So when he lamented about his back, I said, "Tell me about it." And he told me about it. I said, "All right, hang right here. I'm going to go get," I call it the roller, but your statement is description is more accurate. So I just went over and got it. And, I never knew exactly when Karen or whomever else was going to be filming something. I didn't look for it. And so people probably saw some dinner things. I didn't know those were being filmed, but obviously it was being filmed. So I didn't know that until Karen said, "Say hello to my mom and dad, Bob." And so I said, "Hi, Mom and Dad." It's sort of like in the middle of me doing an instruction. But so she said that, I didn't know what I was saying to AJ was being filmed. But the bottom line is he was having issues with his back. And I was trying to help. And that's what it was about.
I'm also that friend. I'm like, okay, where does it hurt? I have the different types of mechanical massagers, but I also am very prone towards orthopedic injury. You seem to be less prone to orthopedic injury because you have quite a background in boxing, which is not something you choose if you are prone to orthopedic injury because, well, the point of boxing sometimes is injury. But how did you get into boxing? And well, I'll start there. I won't compound my questions. I'll just start there.
Yeah, I got into boxing because my father was a Golden Gloves, and he was also a notorious street fighter.
I love everything. I love everything about that.
Yeah, well,
so much.
The apple didn't fall too far from the tree. And so my mother's side of the family was also in boxing. Her distant cousin, Carmen Basilio, was world champion welterweight. He's one of the few fighters to have beaten Sugar Ray Robinson.
Wow.
And so it was totally in the blood. It was totally it was all around me. I followed my father to the gym. I think starting when I was 4 years old. I had my first competitive bout when I was 9.
Wow.
And I boxed competitively up until my last fight. I think was 2014 or 15, which wasn't all that long ago.
No. Well into your practice of law.
Oh, well into my practice of law, to the chagrin of many of my partners. But I absolutely loved it. And it's just something I like doing. And so that's how I got into boxing. I played a lot of other sports as well, but boxing was and always will be my favorite sport.
When you talk about your workout regime, we heard some of that during trial. There is a photo that has gone all over the internet of you flexing, and it makes so much sense to me that you boxed competitively for that long of a career, that the gym still seems to be one of your places, not just where you decompress, but where you process information. So when you are in a trial like this, it seemed that you kept that workout schedule going. What was that like for you? Because I was terrible at doing anything other than trial. It was eat, sometimes sleep trial. And you were still working out, which I think is probably healthier and better for attorneys. How did you weave that into your days? Because trial days are long days.
Yeah, I just slept less, and I made sure that I
I
got my
just slept
workout.
less. I could never. I just slept less. But you were still working out, like working out.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I used to drag some people to the gym. David Yanetti changed his whole routine. He said, and he's a very, very physically fit guy. I think he was a college athlete at Bowdoin, but he said trial one, he just stopped doing everything, but David was good enough to support me and do all the diet things. And we each got a membership at the Equinox gym in the Seaport, and went to the gym. I had some bands and some other equipment in my room. So if I couldn't get there, I would do that. But I would say I kept up 2/3 of my workout routine. I work out every second day. I used to do every other day, but I just need more recovery time. And my workout is 3 hours and 15 minutes. And in addition to that, every morning I get up, I do 15 minutes of stretching. And every other day I add to the stretching in the morning, 15 minutes of sit-ups. And then I go to the gym and do the bike to nowhere. I call it the stationary bike, yeah. and then lift weights. So yes, I kept it up. I just slept less, but it may seem odd to people. If I'm not working out during trial, I'm more tired, and I bring along with me a little pad, because when I'm working out, my mind is just at its sharpest. So I've got a little pad next to me, and I'll just make a note of a thought that comes to my mind. So there's efficiencies. It's not just completely time lost. But I say to people, last point is that working out for me is as much a behavioral health as it is a physical health thing, because I know when I've worked out, I feel better about myself. I'm sharper. But then on, Friday night or Saturday night, it all comes crashing down, and I got to get about 7 or 8 hours of sleep to try to recharge. But probably one of the most important aspects of my practice of law is working out.
I did this better when I was not in trial, and I think I would do it much differently now if I was doing it now. Unfortunately, my busiest time in trial was also when I had very young children, which is not a good situation for anyone, because it was also my husband's busiest aspect of his career in his own dental practice. So we were both incredibly busy with young kids, but I do much better when I am walking. And it's funny when you talk about, or not funny, I suppose it makes sense, when you talked about your love for philosophy and you look back at how philosophers and some of our historical great thinkers processed information, it was always with movement. It was either with walking or running, sometimes or horseback riding, but there was always movement involved. And I found that for me too. I needed to pace as I was trying to figure out a problem, or just I'm leaving and going for a walk. Luckily, working in Los Angeles most of the time, the weather was fine and you could get out and like walk around. And you will see lawyers, some in court, who wander a bit. Some courtrooms forbid it, some don't, as they are talking, because it is part of that thought process. So it doesn't surprise me that when you say working out is when your mind is open to process that information. Your body's busy and your mind can just make those connections. So I imagine when you were in other trials, you kept that habit as well, because you've done quite a lot of trials in your career.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I'm working out no matter if I'm on vacation, if I'm in trial, if I go to someone's funeral and it's a 3-day travel to get there. It's just it's just part of my oxygen. So yeah, it's done all the time. I like to believe I've been served well by it. I might be past the time where I could deny it's an addiction, but it's all good.
It is. And I think there's many in our profession that lead into the badge of honor of being kind of worn down and broken. And I appreciate the pushback on no, that's you don't serve anyone well if you're not taking care of yourself. And it is something I learned maybe too late in my profession. After my spinal fusion, I was like, oh, wonderful. We need to do a bit better of taking care of ourselves. So I loved seeing the Chirp Wheel and the music. I think at one point there was a clip of you guys and listening to Traveling Wilburys, who I love. And so it was fun to see a little bit of the behind the scenes and how music played into that, because that's one of my central escapes in life and in law. So it was nice to see the camaraderie there, but also putting on some music as everybody's chatting was a nice thing. Did you build, because I know the Law Nerds asked, did you build a trial playlist? Do you build playlists for things that you are doing as you process through life, law, working out?
I do have playlists, but they're old. I'm very eclectic.
No judgment here.
Well, they're old in terms of I built my most recent one probably like 6 months ago. I do not, to answer your question, I do not build specific ones for specific cases. I love music. I have to have it on all the time. I'm very eclectic. When I'm doing work and preparing a case, I have classical music on. When I'm working out, I'm big on Sirius XM. So this isn't a commercial for Sirius XM. They don't pay me.
So it's fine. You see, the internet, it's not sponsored. You can just say not sponsored or hashtag not sponsored if you wish, but not sponsored. Continue on with your love for Sirius.
Yes, not sponsored for Sirius. But I just to show you the variety for workouts, I like Lithium 34, which is sort of
I love lithium. I love lithium.
All right, so you know it. Yeah, I love lithium. And then there's like lithium apps, so you can get lithium workout. They have a lithium workout. So I do that. I do 26 classic vinyl, 25 classic rewind. Yeah. I'll do pop. I like 60s music at night, 50s and 60s. I'll listen to at night. And then I listen to the modern things, the modern Sabrina Carpenter, you name it, just when it hits me. I love hip hop. So I love folks like Biggie Smalls.
Oh, it's very East Coast of you.
Yeah. So and Mace was one of my first that I really liked. So it's just a variety, but pretty much everybody on the team liked music. And I will tell you, I was just one example where in the vehicle and somebody starts playing music and it's like one of the most fabulous voices I think I heard. And it was Liza Little playing it. And I said, hey, Liza, we were in the SUV going to court. I said, hey, Liza, who's that singer? And I'm just trying to think of the artist. It sounded like she had a very sultry music, very romantic. It was just, and Liza said, that's me. Liza had no idea, taught herself to play the guitar and has a voice that is like a killer good voice. But everybody, Karen Reed is very eclectic. She knows all the genres and she knows them all. She knows the names. We used to do contests all the time about, playing this song. So there were a lot of, and David Yanetti and AJ, everybody was sort of musically inclined. So it was very nice.
It's one of the things that I have found in law and in the district attorney's office. We often worked either in offices together with 4 or 5 of us or more, but we rarely worked early in our career in offices alone. And picking what we were going to listen to in the office was a massive part of working with your colleagues. Also, there were, when people were leaving to go to concerts, because in LA that is a half a day plan, and who needs court coverage so you can actually get to the Hollywood Bowl. It was a big part of it. And a lot of lawyers I know, and even lawyers we've seen in other trials, the Gwyneth Paltrow trial, one of the attorneys on the team came on and has quite a bit of amazing music on Spotify. I have found that lawyers tend to be incredibly either musically inclined themselves, like Attorney Little. And again, Attorney Eliza, if you would ever like to come on and talk about music, we're here. But not to plug, but I will, shamelessly. I have found that so many either play music or are massive fans of music. So you got to put on 32 though, because the Dave Matthews Station, the chat is immediately like, I know where this is going. The Dave Matthews Station during the summer plays the live Friday night concerts or the Sirius XM concerts. And so you get the live music in real time from Dave, which I love because I have missed too many live concerts this summer because my son is in DCI, which is a competitive marching band program. So I've been traveling around to watch band, which has been most of my exercises, walking up and down stadium stairs, as one does when your kids are engaged in doing things that they excel at. So I'm not surprised that the music love was there. I didn't know that Lithium had a workout station, though. I need to go find that. That sounds amazing.
It's their app. They don't have, it's like whatever big number it is, but yeah, it's called Lithium Workout. I thought of who Liza Little sounds like. Nora Jones.
That's fantastic.
Sounds just like Nora Jones. And we didn't really have too much arguing over when we were all together what music. Karen usually just picked it, and she was very eclectic, and it worked out great.
I mean, it's fair. It's such a stress reliever. And I imagine driving to court every day. It's such a long trial. And then all of you are essentially living in a hotel away from home together. That's a very surreal and specific experience to be away from home for that long. It's really a different and unique thing to be away for the length of the trial. And then the closeness that is forged because you are working in the car on the way back. I was actually surprised when the prosecutor was, he who shall not be named, was so like, what do you mean you got a car? It's like, what do you mean you don't know they got a car? Of course there's a car. Stop it. So it was funny to kind of see the normal things be pointed out as if they were unusual in trial at times.
Yeah, well, that came up with Dr. Russell, and Dr. Russell called it a limo. It was an SUV. It was pretty old SUV, what it was, but for Dr. Russell, it was a limo, and I just didn't go there. But we were staying, 35, 40 minutes from the courthouse. So, we had a choice. I could use that distance to do my run and run to the courthouse. It would probably have taken me 3 or 4 hours to get there, but the only other choice was transportation.
Also, it's not unusual to have expert witnesses transported. You don't want to be like, okay, well, drive yourself, good luck. Also, it causes quite a lot of stress when you're getting ready to testify. And Dr. Russell, after going through multiple Daubert hearings that were more contentious than necessary, in my opinion, I would imagine that there's also a little bit of stress heading to court. Plus, with how high profile it is, even getting into the area of the courthouse seemed like it was logistically a bit more challenging. So it was, I very much enjoyed Dr. Russell as a witness. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was surprised that there was a second and longer Daubert hearing. But she ended up being very wise to what Brennan was up to in questioning, I think, because of that Daubert hearing. And I actually think it worked in her favor when she testified because she clocked him early on and he revealed himself a bit in that Daubert hearing. So she was very ready for him on cross, it seemed to me.
Dr. Russell is one of the most impressive human beings I've ever come across in many, many regards. She was an absolute joy to work with. We spent a lot of time together. I got to know her. Dr. Russell came into a very unfortunate situation. In the first trial, it was sort of a boom, boom. There she was. She barely got through to be allowed to testify on the dog bites. When the Commonwealth challenged her on Daubert, that was my first appearance in the case. And as you know, I handled that. And I basically said, okay, you want a Daubert hearing? You're going to get a Daubert hearing, and you're going to get a long Daubert hearing. And oh, by the way, I'm not just going to qualify her on dog bites. I'm going to qualify her on medical causation. And when she wasn't allowed the first trial to talk about this was inconsistent with a car accident,
yep,
she's going to be talking about, and I'm going to qualify her to be able to talk about motor vehicle accidents. So I welcomed that opportunity. You never can guarantee what you're going to be able to accomplish. But I know a little bit about Daubert hearings from my federal court experience, and I very much look forward to that being my first entree into the case. And we got her through the Daubert hearing, and we got her through trial qualifying in all of those areas. And she also was in my judgment, because I watched the first trial, she was a transformatively different witness the second trial, all due to her extraordinary intelligence, skills, capabilities, and preparation. Just a tremendous individual.
It's incredibly gracious of you too to not just honor what that witness went through, but her own prep. But some of that is also your preparation. What I noticed on my end is that Dr. Russell is not just highly intelligent, isn't the right word for how knowledgeable she is. And there are times with experts, it becomes difficult to explain how you know something that is so ingrained. And it takes very good preparation to help them break down an ingrained thought process that they know and explain step by step how they know the thing. And you could see in that preparation that you both had the time together to help her break down something that was so innate and obvious to her, because it gets difficult to explain it to the court, the obvious thing that is almost second nature. And the expansion of her testimony, I think, was incredibly impactful. And I was continuously surprised by some of the choices. And I mean, my background was as a prosecutor. So I'm looking at this going, I wouldn't have given her an opportunity to do another Daubert hearing because I wouldn't have wanted to expand her testimony after hearing how much experience she had and how knowledgeable she was. And you guys were given a second bite at it and really took it and made much use of it. But also it gave her an opportunity to understand Attorney Brennan, who's a very different stylistic attorney than Attorney Lally. And it also gave him the opportunity to step in it with her testimony. And I think my jaw dropped when he started asking her about evaluating Karen Reed's statements and why she would have done that. And she did not just walk through that door. She flew in on a wrecking ball and was like, you want to know why? Let me share with you why. And they talk about asking the one question too many. And that happened a few times. But Dr. Russell was comfortable enough and prepared enough to really give just fantastic answers about grief. I'm sure that was stunning to you sitting at defense table when he asked that question. You're going, he's not going to really ask this. And then he did. All of you had to be flabbergasted that that was happening in real time.
Not at all. We were prepared for that very moment.
For him to ask those questions. How do you think a lawyer's going to ask those questions? It's terrible questions for him.
All I can tell you is we were very much prepared for that very moment, and I'll never forget it. I knew it was coming because, as you know, the Attorney Brennan kept talking about the clips, and I hit him. Could I hit him? Did I hit him? Et cetera, et cetera. And so Dr. Russell was, she's just got so much experience, but I could feel it. And then I knew it was coming by just the way he was questioning. And I looked down the table. And then when the sort of what I call the capstone question, I'll never forget it. Please explain. And then I just knew the avalanche was going to come, and it came. And I think it was just another example of the depth and the breadth of Dr. Russell's knowledge, experience, but also knowing when the moment was appropriate to be discussing various aspects of the case. And I believe that moment, in my judgment, essentially ameliorated, if not eliminated, and gave an explanation and a medical explanation to all of those clips that were played and that whole, I think, overwrought and overused, I hit him, could I hit him? In my judgment, it just couldn't have worked out better. Not so much from an I gotcha, but for purposes of the truth. Why is it that someone could be saying things like that? And I think most people understood it intuitively, but to have a medical doctor, and this is obviously all public knowledge because it came out at the trial, to have a doctor, an emergency room physician who's going to see this the most. That's when people are there grieving whatever is happening immediately in front of them.
Yes.
To say, yeah, it's extreme grief reaction. There's a medical diagnostic term for that. It is very common for people to self-blame in situations. And I think people can relate to that. And that's just one of the many outstanding characteristics of Dr. Russell. She's so relatable.
Yes.
And for her to articulate that and to do it in a clearly at the moment situation, it wasn't on direct examination. It was, she was put in the position as a doctor of being pressed as to how someone could make those statements. And she just gave a tremendously cogent answer for it. So yeah, I'll never forget that moment.
It was an incredibly important moment in trial, because when you said, I think people intuitively know that, we had over 50,000 people watching with us live, and so many shared their own experiences with that. But one of the things as a trial lawyer that is so important is to give the jurors the argument to make in the jury room. The jurors that are on your side, give them an explanation. And Dr. Russell gave the jurors an explanation, and someone can't look to them and say, well, that's just what you think. No, it's not just what I think. It's what this doctor, who works in an ER in highly volatile, intense situations for her entire career, has seen and experienced. It's not my opinion. It's Dr. Russell's expert opinion. And that's something you couldn't have gotten into and elicited on direct. So
Exactly
when
right.
he
Exactly
got
right.
into it on cross, I was stunned, but it was clear that she was well prepared. And unlike some experts, she wasn't trying to force in answers that didn't belong. And when experts do that, it tends to turn jurors off when they are trying to force an answer that doesn't naturally follow from a question. And it really shuts juries down from listening to them, because it feels almost scripted, and it feels too close to advocacy. Like, oh, you just want to say what you want to say. And that's, Dr. Russell's testimony did not come across that way at all. And even with aggressive cross-examination, she came across very relatable and very likable, which matters a lot for experts, that the jury like them. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
It was great to see. Can I ask you about one other expert?
Sure.
You asked Dr. Wolf, who we called Hungry Like the, because I think on direct examination, he said Wolf like the real thing, as differentiated from...
Hungry
Yes.
Like the Wolf's a great song. A lyric in the song. Yeah.
That's what we called him the entire trial, to differentiate him from Dr. Wolf, spelled with an E, who at times the chat may have called Dr. Dimples more than once, or Dr. Crash Daddy. We tried to be respectful, but competence is a beloved thing amongst our chat. So when we got to, neurosurgeon Dr. Wolf, who was as neurosurgeon as a neurosurgeon can be, you started your cross-examination in a very different direction and asked him about his day. I'm so curious, if you don't mind sharing what you can about why you chose to start your cross-examination that way, or what inkling you might have had that lent you to want to start your cross-examination that way.
Yeah, it's an excellent question. I had a very long cross-examination of Dr. Wolf outlined, and I was going to go into a lot of different areas. I sat there, and I had the best seat in the house for the witness stand. They all had to where I seated. I was seated closest to the jury in the number one chair in direct line of the witness. I felt the power of that witness. I watched the jurors mesmerized with what he had to say. And as he was going through, as you know, Emily, as a very accomplished and experienced trial attorney, you just have to read the room. You got to feel it. It's intuition. You're not always right, but you go with it. I just felt that if I was going to go toe to toe with him, I'd probably, get to a draw with him. Maybe I'd lose a tooth or two. But I said, no, can't do it. Not with this witness. And so I just made a decision. I went over and consulted with my client about it before I went and started the cross. But I just said, I'm going to have a completely unorthodox way of cross-examining this witness. And I just gave a heads up. And listen, I did all of my work on my own. I didn't send my work for review by anybody. I did
Right.
everything on my own. but we communicated greatly. So I just said, this is going to be unorthodox. Just bear with it. So that was the thought process behind it, was to be, not to use too much of a pun, to be completely surgical with the neurosurgeon and get out 3 or 4 points, and get in and get out quickly. And so that's what I started out. And David Yanetti had the best summary. I could do it in about 10 seconds. He said, Bob fed him the food, put the poison in it. And by the time the doctor realized that he had eaten the poison, it was too late. But that was what was going on in my head for this witness, and why I did that unorthodox approach to the start of it.
Yeah, it's an interesting game time decision and that is a huge part of law, is being able to read the people around you. It was just such an interesting moment with him talking about how early he gets up, going to work to prep, coming home, making his wife a cappuccino at exactly 6 a.m. I was just floored by the whole thing. I think everyone in the chat was like, where are my cappuccinos? I was hollering for my husband. I'm like, Dr. B, look, man, this neurosurgeon's making cappuccinos at 6 o'clock in the morning. To which my husband responded, if you were up at 6 o'clock in the morning, maybe we would consider it. And I'm like, that's way too early for me. I'm not doing that anymore. I don't have to be in court for anyone in the morning. I like to be up late and sleep late. But it was a really interesting and unique way to approach an expert, because I've seen a lot of attorneys with an expert that good just not ask them any questions, because he did have some very good testimony for the defense in his direct with, I see these kinds of accidents all the time on ice. I see this all the time. So I can see choosing to not, and I appreciated the cross quite a lot. And I was wondering about that decision. So thank you, because it also was a moment. Every trial needs kind of these lighter moments. They're great for the jury. They are helpful for everyone. And it was nice to see this surgeon come in and really not rebut most of what you said about the case. And it was also interesting to hear his morning routine, because you also have a very distinct morning routine that I've heard you talk about. So if you want to share with the law nerds, I know we can share, because you have you've shared about your stretching and what have you. You have a very specific morning routine, but I've heard some awful rumors that it does not involve coffee.
Yeah, I know it's
controversy.
Yeah, well, it in some circles, it probably is tantamount to blasphemy that I don't drink coffee or tea. I don't. And, and my morning routine is, I get up, I immediately go stretch for 50 minutes, as I said earlier. And then every other day I add on top of that 15 minutes of sit-ups. And then I have already from the night before, I drink still water, room temperature. And I just drink 33 ounces of water. And you might say, well, what's with the 33 ounces? Well, I've got this bullet machine, large thing, and I measured it. It's 30. I just filled it up. It's 33 ounces of water, and I drink that, and then I just get on with my day. But that is my morning routine, and I also, in terms of my diet, I have what I call the upside down diet. For breakfast, I eat dinner, and for lunch, I eat dinner, and for dinner, I start eating like a salad, breakfast food, and so I eat my breakfast at night. I eat like every 2 hours,
which is hard in trial. I mean, there were days that it was not healthy. This is not shocking to the law nerds, but when I was in trial, I would generally do the same thing with dinner for breakfast, because there were days I wouldn't often get much opportunity to eat more than like a power bar or sometimes a bag of Cheetos at lunchtime, because we were in trial so often, sometimes multiple times in a month, that there were times I was doing trials that were not mine originally, but somebody else is in trial. And so here you go. So you're meeting your witnesses for the first time over the lunch break before they go in to testify, which is definitely a trial by fire way to learn trial work. So those bigger breakfasts in the morning, heavy protein, were necessary, because I know your cooler became the subject of much fascination. And I just appreciate it so much because law does not always emphasize taking care of yourself, and that you can practice law at the highest levels of this profession and still plan to bring food and actually take care of yourself. It's a wonderful and incredible example versus kind of the lawyers of old wearing burnout as a badge of how hard you're working. And I don't think that serves clients, the lawyer, or their families, because you also have a family that was, you know, your children are definitely older than mine, but not old by any means, but you have a family too that is needing your attention and wants to spend time with you. So if you burn yourself out at work, you don't get to spend that family time. And it is hard to be the family of a trial attorney. And you're doing trials all over the country regularly as part of your work.
Yeah, it's a great challenge. I will tell you, back to the cooler, that was for jury selection. Jury selection in Massachusetts is insane for many reasons, not the least of which is you don't really leave the building because there's not time for lunch.
Right.
So in Emily, modern day, there's a lot of attorneys still wearing, I'm just going to let myself go for the trial. It still happens. It's the predominance of attorneys. I just can't do it. And so I had the Yeti big cooler. And by the way, you get this for an insane price, but it's worth it. This Yeti freezer pack. It's big. It goes right in. It really lasts a long time. And so I had my healthy food, and then David Yanetti, who bought into the total physical fitness and health food, because he was like every other attorney, as I mentioned earlier, the first trial, and he wasn't happy about that had happened. So I used to joke that because like the press pool was right next to me for jury selection. And so there was one, Ted Daniels, who used to ask me what was in it. Then he
was sharing it on Twitter every day.
He was sharing it on X about what was in each day. And then not long after I started, David started getting the health food and asked me if he could put his food in. There was plenty of room for it. So I used to joke. I changed the name of it to the Yan-Yeti. And then I told everybody that I was renting out space in my Yan-Yeti condo to David Yanetti for his food. So it became a bit of a thing. But it was all part. But jury selection was just absolutely grueling. That's what a lot of people ended up with back and hip issues from that. And it just, to me, it underscores being physically fit and taking care of yourself at all times, but most importantly so for trial. But it was even before trial with jury selection. A lot of attorneys, no names to be mentioned, not saying they were on the defense team because not all of them were, ended up with some notable physical fitness and musculoskeletal issues as a result of jury selection.
Yeah, I'm one of those attorneys that did not always take good care of myself. So I understand it. And then you end up on this really awful cycle of like crash and recovery throughout your career. And it's not the best for your brain. And our professions require us to work well. And it really is, sitting that much takes a toll on your body, even though it's not what you would traditionally think of as a physical profession, but sitting that much takes a toll on your body. And you also have to pay attention for very long periods of time. In rooms that are hot, cold, have horrible lighting, it requires quite a lot of energy. I am being very mindful of time because I know that you're traveling and you have work. So I've got a few questions that I have to ask. I might have perused your LinkedIn. Look, you inspired me to find my LinkedIn login. I work online. LinkedIn is not necessarily where I spend a lot of time. I found my LinkedIn login because of your cross-examination regarding LinkedIn, and your LinkedIn indicates that you were involved with rugby as well. Did you play rugby in undergrad or in law school?
Oh, I sure did, and I had the great fortune of playing it at a high level. I actually in law school had a scholarship to law school, and it was surprisingly based in part on rugby. The head of the admissions committee, the contracts professor, essentially and my mentor, Professor William Watkins, recruited me, and he was the rugby coach. And in professional schools, my law school was always Harvard Business School, my law school, were always winning the championship. So it was, and our rugby team had it was a bit of a scandal, but we had the largest budget in law school, the rugby team.
That's amazing.
So I played rugby. I played in pharmacy schools when I started. I played for the Albany Knickerbockers, which is a very famous and very, very skilled rugby team. And so, yeah, I played rugby for a number of years. And I stopped playing when the 6'6", they call them the number 8s, and they're the back part of the rugby scrum. When they started catching me, I knew it was time for me to retire. But yeah, I had a great career. And actually, Professor Watkins, who is no longer with us, they gifted him a rugby duffel bag, and it says his name on the side. And among other things in the will, he left me that. I carry that rugby bag every trial I go to. That's what I put my shoes in.
That's incredible. I love that. I was like, I need to know more about rugby. My husband and I are rugby fans. We took our honeymoon in Fiji during the Tri-Nation tournament and had the most fun watching rugby in an island in Fiji that I think I've ever had in my life. It is just an incredible sport. If I was not so land challenged, it was a sport people asked me to play a lot just because of my background playing water polo. They're like, you don't mind hitting people. Do you want to play rugby? I'm like, I have issues with running because my ankles and knees do not love it. But no, I don't mind hitting people, but water. Have you enjoyed watching the rise of rugby, particularly women's rugby, after this last Olympics in the US? It's been really fun for me to see.
I absolutely have. And you know what? The Albany Knickerbockers had women's rugby team. So I grew up always assuming women's rugby was a thing. They were very, very skilled, very tough. So yeah, I'm thrilled to death to see it taking off. A quick story on rugby, and you can go research this. The Albany Knickerbockers, when I was playing for them, we hosted the South African Springboks during apartheid.
Wow.
At the Bleecker Stadium in Albany, New York. And I had to walk a gauntlet of protesters to get to the game. And it was one of the, if not the pinnacle of my rugby career. The Springboks, one of the best rugby organizations in the world, came to Bleecker Stadium. I think it was in the late 1970s. Yeah, it would have been around 78 or something. And the game made it to Nightline. If you remember, Ted Koppel, ABC News had Nightline. Our rugby captain was on Nightline talking about it. It was a big thing. Unfortunately for us, we were just rugby players. Nobody was politically correct. Our rugby captain looked like a white supremacist. So the interview didn't really actually go that well.
Yeah.
But he wasn't at all. He was just
it's
a great guy.
TV gives you 7 seconds. So what people see on the screen in connection with the story is difficult. Yeah, I get that.
Loved rugby. Still love rugby. And let me tell you something.
Please.
The rugby parties after the game
are
so much fun. You get together with the other team, you sing songs.
The rugby songs
which are
the
not
best.
Politically correct.
Oh no, rugby songs are meant for rugby songs. They're not meant for social media.
They're definitely not. But what a great atmosphere rugby is. It's fabulous.
I started watching rugby. I went to UMass Amherst until I tore my rotator cuff, but I was playing water polo in Massachusetts because I am 5'6". So water polo on the West Coast, I am not exactly the correct 6' plus stature for that. Loved UMass, but UMass had an incredible rugby team. They also may or may not have had kegs on the sideline of the field. So as a young college student, rugby was absolutely the place to be, and not something that was played quite a lot in California. And our football team, I went to go watch the marching band, but our football team was not great. Basketball team, yes. Football team, not so much. And I really loved not just the community of rugby, but the sport of rugby, because it's strategic, it's physical, there are no breaks. And it's rugby players are really a lot of fun. And the drink ups afterwards are amazing. So yes, I have quite a lot of fondness for rugby. And I saw that and I was like, I have got to know more about rugby, because LinkedIn, I think, has not seen more traffic than during this trial because of what a central point it became. I have never seen, and look, I've done retrials before. I've done retrials that were my own trial. I've done retrials that I did not try the first time. Retrials generally don't have as many surprises because everything's been vetted. This retrial was unlike anything I'd ever seen, but I've never seen an expert with a resume issue the way that happened in this trial. I wouldn't have even anticipated that that was a real thing that could happen because they're so vetted. But I can't imagine what realizing that in your preparation must have been like. Did you look at the rest of the defense team and go, you're not going to actually believe this? Because you can't talk much about your prep with your client. But was that a moment of, you guys are never going to believe this?
Yeah, as you would know, I can't get into how we came upon it other than to say there were internal and external inputs into that. I would just tell you generally, I am so thankful to my team and the teammates that I was allowed, as part of me coming on, that I was just going to try this case pursuant to my own direction, right? And so we worked great together, but I had a very clear vision about how this retrial should go, and my role in addition to how the strategy overall, and for things like so you, I'm sure, saw, for example, with Ian Whiffen and Jessica Hyde, I had much different approaches, different substantive aspects to it. Dr. Scorty Bello, same thing. And so Burgess, of course, wasn't part of the first trial, nor was Welcher. Right. But I will tell you, I had anticipated maybe 45 minutes on the resume issue, and it just kept blossoming and blossoming. And so I was certainly going to run with it. But I will tell you, and Emily, you will appreciate this, one of the most challenging aspects was to get into evidence those LinkedIn pages. I had to get him to authenticate, and then I had to lay the foundation through him to get them in. And I got it all done, but it's not often you can get an expert that you're going to go after him on his credentials to agree with your questions that you need to ask to authenticate. And as you saw, I had no outline. I had no outline for any of that. I stood next to him, and it was on camera, and I'm just live, just going through the authentication and foundational process, some objections and some well-stated objections. And then I just kept coming at it from a different angle and got every single one of those documents in through evidence. So it was fun, but I would also point out from an evidentiary perspective, it was a challenge. And that's where I thank the good Lord that I was able to be an adjunct professor in law school for 5 years and teach a variety of courses, one of which had a very heavy evidence component to it. But I don't know if I've ever had such satisfaction than with that cross-examination.
The foundational challenges were not insubstantial, and the witness had to really not see where you were going with it to try to modify their answers. So it's not just the laying the foundation, which there were times in the trial that there were elements of foundation missed by the prosecutor. At times it's like, oh, you're not used to having to lay foundation. There's a step missing. But it was interesting watching you navigate that while also trying not to tip him off to exactly where you were going with it. Because if he had seen what was coming, the trap becomes much harder to set, if it were. And he didn't seem to appreciate where that was going. We could see where that was going. And I sat here going, no, there's no way that this is different. And then as that started to reveal itself, I'm like, I don't have words for how that all went down. The level of how unusual that is hard to state, because when you work with experts, especially in your practice, they are the top experts in their field in the country, if not the world. And this is just not something that happens. So it's
And
a staggering thing.
Please keep in mind, he had testified before,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And in other trials. And the other item I would point out is, as you may recall, I did a long wind-up to camouflage. I talked about, okay, you're data in data forensics. It's important that you be objective. It's important you don't have confirmation bias. It's important that you have candor. It's important that your testimony is going to be relied upon by lawyers, judges, jury. And I did this long wind up as to how important it was to be honest, to be transparent, and to be accurate. And he went right along with all of it. I was quoting from my own research, which is like the Forensic Academy that really covered his area in a lot of these predicates. And then after having circled the wagon and, as I call, seal the perimeter, that I moved in.
Yeah, it was strategic. It was incredible to watch. It was also baffling that it was even on the table that somebody had misrepresented their resume. On that, you mentioned that you taught in law school, but I had seen that you also taught at what looks like New York's Judicial College, where you are teaching judges as well, which is quite an honor to be asked to teach jurists and judges and their team as they are learning how to do their job. One of my close friends just finished Judicial College, and it is generally the top judges in the state. And on rare occasion, lawyers are asked. That's no small feat. And do you mind explaining a little bit of that? Because I want the law nerds to understand what a big deal that is, which is, I know, going to be a little uncomfortable asking you to fuse a little bit about yourself, but being asked to teach judges at Judicial College is a very big deal.
Yes, it is. It's an honor, and I was thrilled to death when they asked me to do that. The judges who attend the Judicial Institute in New York State are just brilliant people. They've been doing it for years. And I think, to their complete credit, they just want to keep improving. They want to get better. They want different perspectives. They want people that they believe have something to offer to them to help them to improve. And it takes a lot for a judge to say, I'd like somebody else to teach. And so it's a great opportunity. You have to be ultra prepared. I taught law school. This is like teaching law students times a million with these judges. I'm just continually amazed at how they just have cases at the top of their head. They're so facile. They're so smart. But it's just a fantastic experience. And actually, one of my very, very good friends, if I could give a shout out,
please,
to Bill McCarthy, a judge who's no longer on the bench, but he's a mediator, practiced privately. One of the most renowned judges in New York State history. He sat on 2 appellate divisions, one in Manhattan and then one in upstate. And it's, in addition to that, you just get some great friendships, like I got out of Dave Yanetti. But it is a fascinating institute, and it's just it was just a thrill to be part of it.
I'm sure that you will be asked in the future, and I have been asked with bar associations and continuing education and more, to talk about the experience of a high-profile case and cases that have an aspect of attention online in them. Do you have any initial advice or thoughts for attorneys engaging in cases that are of a higher profile, particularly online, because it's a bit different than just being high profile in a region, as you've just gone through this? It's a very unique but growing thing that lawyers are not well enough aware of, I think.
Yeah, it's an outstanding point, and I bet you I could teach a law school course that would take 3 or 4 semesters.
I would love to do that so much.
It is so important.
Yes.
And there are just so many dynamics that go to it, but it is incredibly important to recognize. I mean, this is, when first it used to be no cameras in the courtroom, then it was cameras in the courtroom, and there was in my view, and I've taught this, you have to change based upon the cameras in a courtroom, whether you like it or not. Social media has exponentially changed how I believe you should try a case. And it's not, and I'm going to repeat, it's not about the attorney and the attorney trying to have self-aggrandizement, trying to bring more theatrics. It's what you need to do for your client. Sometimes you have to be even more circumspect than if you were just without them. But it's all about how do you most effectively achieve your client's goals. In social media, lawyers like to ignore it. Some like to say, it doesn't matter. Oh, if you're considering that, you're playing to the cameras. No, there are things that I did repeatedly in the wake of social media. And I'll leave it at that for the moment, but it's real and it's important. And I will tell you, I love, love, love practicing law. And one of the things I love the most about it is the community writ large gets to see the judicial process. It's imperfect, but it's the best process we have in the world for settling disputes. And I am thrilled to death that people take an interest in it, learn from it, because justice does get served, not the way everybody likes all the time. But I believe social media is fabulous for getting people involved. I hope they stay involved because, Emily, as you know, in the end, the judiciary is just part of government. And I'm a huge believer of people being active participants in their government, no matter what their views are. It just makes society better. And if I can help in that regard in my lawyering or whatever else, then, I'm happy to do my part. But social media, huge, huge, huge impact on trying cases when they're certainly at this level.
Absolutely. And I've seen lawyers try to ignore the social media aspect of a high profile case, but it does not serve a client ultimately if they lose on social media, but when in court and in civil cases, that becomes a much larger thing, especially depending on the civil case. And I've seen it with companies where I'm like, they are losing on social media. They might win in court, but they've tanked themselves with their community online because the lawyers are not giving it its due. And there are some lawyers, I think, that think it's just silly people talking online, and that's not at all what it is. And savvy lawyers are not just aware of it, but are able to be aware of it without it changing how they try their case. And I think that's a very important distinction that gets lost, because you can see in a case if a lawyer is spending too much time on social media and changing how they try their case. I'm a big fan of archery, so I say you have to follow your own arrow or run your own race, but you can't go into a case and change course because of social. You can address a few things that social brings up, but you can't change course in your case constantly because you lose your jury. They're not on social at the time, and they shouldn't be. So it's going to be interesting to see how our profession continues to grow, navigating what an online aspect of cases look like. But I also think we are going to have better jurors because they're more aware of how the process works, and it's not as disorienting to them because they watch cases like the Karen Reed case and like others, and also cases that have a light shown on them. We have seen very positive results in knowing what happens. And I think there's also accountability to those involved in a different way than there would be if this case didn't have the attention. I don't know if the outcome would have been the same. It might have well been, but I don't think the accountability of those involved in law enforcement would have been the same at all. I think that is because of the attention that there had to be accountability. You can't just transfer people to a different division and think it's going to go away. It's not going to go away. So there's nor should it. There's a large outcry for that, and publicly people get to see their bench officers and see what lawyers do, see what objections mean, and ultimately elect the people that change the laws if they don't like the way things play out in court. Why is it this way? This law. How does that law change? Those people. Great, let's change it. So it's nice to see the enthusiasm for that and how cases bring this. And I'm sure you will be talking more about cases in social media and how to use social media. Did you pay attention to social media about this case prior to jumping into it all the way?
Not at all. Well, I did. I pay attention to social media, absolutely, for my clients, et cetera, but
Not in this
I,
case.
no, for this case, but also I was unaware of the entire world out there of what some refer to as law tubers, the YouTube. I was unaware of it, and I think you've been a bit too modest for yourself, Emily, about the role of social media. Your talents in being able to convey to your viewers your expert area knowledge of the law, to translate what they're watching real time, to me is so important. Yeah, they can watch Bob Alessi try a case. They'll get X amount out of it. They have Emily Baker going through, commenting, doing that is exponentially increasing and embedding in their minds the knowledge. So how you do what you do, the way you do it, and the brilliance and the skill is important. But I got to tell you, there's yet another factor. I've watched your show. You bring an absolutely delightful humor, insight, humanity. Sometimes you're unpredictable, which all of that is just completely fetching in my regards. So, the role that you play, and I'm going to be giving talks and continue to do them, and I'm going to be mentioning the Emily D. Bakers of the world and how important that is from a societal perspective, the role that you play. So I hope you continue, because it is almost as important as what goes on in the courtroom. Because if people don't understand what's going on in the courtroom, then that's not going to get everybody to where I hope they can get. So I tip my hat to Emily D. Baker.
That's incredibly kind. And I spent a lot of my career, I enjoyed complex litigation. We'll have to talk about this another time, because white collar crime is also where I found white collar and computer crimes is where I found my sweet spot in a DA's office full of people that wanted to do blood and guts and gang homicides and the rest. I was like, bring me boxes of paper and bank accounts and I will be the happiest girl in the world, because I could translate what looked like complex cases on the outside to really just a few basic principles of greed or theft or passion or what have you on the other side. And I hope that translating law helps people engage with our legal system that can feel esoteric and unapproachable, because law is so steeped in tradition and history, it can be difficult to translate. And so I try to help make the law more human so people can engage with it in a way that works for them, while also watching how cases play out and watching lawyers do excellent work, or if not excellent work, then giving comment on that too. But I very much appreciate it. We probably have another 3 hours of conversation to have, but I know that you have to get to work. I want to make sure that people know where to find you. So if you want to tell them where to follow along for info on the podcast and to follow along with you, because I know they will want to hear more from you, and we will have to have another conversation and share, because we can have a whole conversation about how LawTube began and maybe a conversation over drinks about my humor getting me in trouble in court, because those are maybe stories best served off the internet.
I welcome the opportunity. I'm at Bob Alessi on X. Had a little issue with an imposter recently, my first experience with that. I think I got through that, but that's probably the best way to watch for what's going on until I get the David and I get the YouTube channel set up. I think that'll do it for now. I appreciate the opportunity for you to allow me to say that. Of course.
And please keep me posted so I can keep the Law Nerds posted. A lot of them are not on the former Bird app, but I will also keep them posted and keep a look. And yes, impersonators happen. They happen. They're going to happen more. Go get your handle on every social platform, because it will happen. It happens to me quite a lot. And I'm sure you will start seeing, if you haven't already, people stopping you as you are at the gym or wherever and be like, I watched that trial with you. I'm sure that's happening quite a bit already.
In the state of Massachusetts, I can't go 15 steps no matter where I am. And I love it, because I love people and I love engaging with them. They supported me, they supported us, and I'm more than happy to engage with them, but you are correct.
Yeah, it's fun to stop and have a conversation. I know you have to get to a meeting. Thank you so much for joining us. I know the law nerds enjoy you so much, so thank you. And we look forward to not only having another conversation, but hearing more from you. So you have to come back before the podcast launches. If you have the time, we would love to have you. So you know where to contact me, let me know, and we will talk soon. Please don't be late for your meeting on my account, because you'll start taking on Emily bad habits of being late everywhere she goes.
Well, Emily, it's been an absolute pleasure. What a great opportunity for me. And I especially appreciate to be on with the law nerds who are a very intelligent and a very engaged community. So my pleasure.
They are. Thank you so much. We will see you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Law nerds, I know all of you just absolutely adore Mr. Alessi, and I do as well. We are all big fans. I know some of you have never fanned over an attorney before in court. This might be new, but it is fun. And I know we didn't get to everything that is top of mind about the Karen Reed case, but truly, I wanted to know more, and I know you did too, about Attorney Alessi, about his journey in life, in law, his studies, the work that he's done, the type of work that he does, the work behind the scenes that went into not just making a case like this happen, but allowing an attorney like Mr. Alessi to be at that trial. The fact that his team has been with him for as long as they have speaks volumes about not only his character, but what a true professional and joy he is to work with, because otherwise you won't have people working with one attorney for 30 plus years. It is really just incredible to see. And I know all of you are probably inspired and a bit motivated by everything that we have heard from the one and only Robert Alessi, the word of the day, and all of it. So what I'm going to do is swoop us into some questions, answer some questions, chat with chat. Some of you came in and were like, is this live? I know we don't always do interviews live. We don't always do interviews, period. But absolutely wanted to chat more with Alessi about him and his background and rugby and boxing and music and life, and also taking care of yourself even when you are stressed. It is such a need in our profession, and he has such a wonderful opportunity to inspire so much good. And his enthusiasm and optimism for law is one of the things that really inspired me watching him in court. Because when you watch him in court, you not only see how passionate he is, but how optimistic and enthusiastic he is. He does not argue from a cynical place. It is always from a place of optimism. And that is something truly incredible and needed in law. So I think it's hard for lawyers. They're used to talking to other lawyers. It is nice to get to branch out of that, because when you work as much as you do, you talk to the people in your firm, you talk to the people around you. And I look forward to his conversations with Yanetti, and also him allowing us the time to just speak one-on-one and talk about him a bit more. And I am happy to do that with Yanetti and with Eliza Little and Jackson if they would like. But I know that the law nerds, number one, if we can do one interview, Alessi was at the top of your list. Absolutely. Miss Little is at the second, and I would love to have her too. I had emailed, can we chat with Attorney Little? I will email again because I'm sure she got inundated. But I also think that I think there's a worry that people will want to talk or ask about things that they can't talk about, where I remind people that we really do want to talk about them and their journey in law. We didn't even get to ask Alessi what he was taking notes on, whether it was the Remarkable or the iPad. I have a whole other segment of organization that I would love to talk to him about, but we will do that another day. We will take time. All of you are adding 33 ounces of water to your morning routine, because hydration before caffeination. But attorneys, good attorneys particularly, are and must be well-rounded. And there can be a push to just focus on work in whatever field that you are in. But if you are not balanced, even when you love what you do, it unsettles. There has to be a way that you enjoy something else, take time for something else, take time outside of work, even when you love your work. And I don't think there's any question that Bob Alessi loves being a lawyer, loves the work of being a lawyer, loves what he does, and loves engaging with it and thinking about it and crafting arguments and motions and briefs. It was fantastic. So let's swoop and get to questions, shall we? Shall we? Let's do that. Let's do all of that. Let's get to FAQs. Shall we, Law Nerds? Let's go. So I love getting to hear about not just Alessi's life, but his team at work, family, hobbies. It's fantastic. CJ Raymond said, I was today years old when I learned that Robert Alessi went to school in Albany, New York, as a current Albany resident. Very excited to hear this. Yes, he is a New Yorker through and through. How about interviewing the budding law nerds, the interns? I'll see. We'll see. They are probably in school busy, because I would imagine most of them are going into their 3L and busy. But we will see. If they would like to chat, we will see how that will be. I'm going to get to some of our super chats and our member chats. I've never clicked a notification bell so quickly in my life. Didn't go into labor at the Killers last night. Congratulations, Cindy. Look, get in that live concert. Well, you can, because when kids are little, it gets harder. I loved seeing all of your welcome to Mr. Alessi. We're going to have to create a word of the day calendar. I also love the respect of the younger attorneys working with him, the clerks working with him, that they also weave in words that they think would inspire or be humorous for him. So I love that young attorneys and law clerks rise to the challenge of meeting Alessi where he is at, because he clearly loves linguistics. It's just so wonderful. Laura M. said, as a paralegal student, hearing about his relationship with Carol was so inspiring. And it is so true. There are lots of attorneys who are not easy to work with or good to work for. They do not keep and build relationships with their team. Good attorneys who are good humans build lifelong relationships and friendships with their team. And that is a relationship of mutual respect. And it is needed to have mutual respect. So if any of you are in a situation where you're working for a lawyer and you don't feel that mutual respect and that growing, you will find someone who you can build that with. It is incredibly important. It is a very symbiotic and wonderful relationship, or can be. CW said, I'm so excited that the podcast will have Alessi and Yanetti, my favorite bromance. I mean, do they need to just name it brothers-in-law? I really want that to happen. I want the podcast to have a word of the day. I want them to try to outdo each other with a word of the day and see if they can catch somebody with that. Just what about this one? I want to see all of it. I think it's fantastic. Mary said, how many students did Alessi teach? He taught for quite a while, so I would imagine a substantial number of students when he was teaching. But he also has a very busy, as you hear, a very busy law practice. DK, good to see you. I added a L to my morning of H2O after his last. There you add a liter of water. Get it? We are working on bringing back the cups, but I try to do one of these in the morning. I don't generally get it before coffee. We do hydrate before caffeination, but it's not always perfect. It's not always perfect. Carolyn said, such an awesome convo about stuff not addressed in any other interview. Well, thank you. It is always my goal to get to know the attorneys that we watch a little bit better. I want to know more about them. yes, I am interested in their strategy, but you understand their strategy better when you understand them. Alessi has picked not only physical sports, but strategic sports. Rugby is strategic. Like, where's the Alessi Alonamar mashup that we all need? I mean, rugby is having such an incredible moment. But they are both incredibly physical, demanding, and strategic endeavors. And to see how Alessi lays things down in court, you can see the strategy and the long game strategy in play in the way that he does things. It's not without preparation, and preparation also allows you to be flexible and being able to navigate like a Dr. Wolf hungry like and look at Dr. Wolf, look at the jury, look at your notes and go, you know what? We're going to do something different. You can't do that if you are A, not confident, and B, not well prepared. And you also have to know that is going to pay off. So you have to trust yourself. And I think sport can often teach you how to trust your instincts. There are other things that do that well, though I know a lot of lawyers who either lean into music or sport, they have other endeavors. So sport really teaches you to trust your instinct. And when it's not right, like when it doesn't feel right, there is for lack of a better word, there is a vibe to it. You can talk about trusting your instincts, but sometimes it's just vibes, Your Honor, vibes. And being able to feel that that's the right option is important. Knowing is one thing, but knowing yourself well enough to feel it is something that sport really helps you learn. And we could have talked about sport forever. Sport helps you learn this doesn't feel right. And that's a intuitive as much as a physical. So it's nice to hear how much he was able to tap into that. And also that coming into the Karen Read case, he was like, look, this retrial is going to be different. So if you want my help, we are going to talk behind the scenes, and you could see the different strategy, and bringing in a fresh set of eyes to the Karen Read trial, I think was hugely beneficial because of how much work the first trial was. I don't think there was ever an opportunity from what I observed on this side, I don't think we saw an opportunity for Attorney Jackson, Attorney Little, and Attorney Yanetti to take a step back and see the case through different eyes because they were so deeply in it. Where Alessi was able to bring in a fresh set of eyes, a fresh perspective, and really look at the overall umbrella of strategy. And that is a very cool thing to get to talk to him about, but also sport. So that surprises me none. And I feel like we got to know Bob Alessi just a little bit better, didn't we? I think we did. Let's get to some more questions. Litzy said, this is such a blessing as I wait on a cancer scan. I hope that things are well, Litzy, and that you have answers because it is a stressful thing. For everyone who joined as new members, thank you. We can talk. We have more to talk about behind the scenes. We have some software we need to test, so we've got that. We have tons we need to talk about tomorrow. We'll talk about DCI another time because that was the travel. I'm like, my tan is so strange. I have just sitting in Stan's tan. I swear I'm still cool. Said, oh my God, I'm so happy to be here for this. I know we worked hard to find a date that we could make work because it's just, he is catching up on, 6 months of cases that need then your attention and are backed up. So it's no small feat for the attorneys to have to jump back into everyday life. It is an everyday law practice. It is no small undertaking, but I also don't think we have seen a lot of conversation about all the, not just accomplishments, but the breadth of Alessi's work and where he has been asked and has chosen to give back, not just at teaching judges to judge, but also working with law students. You definitely see the heart for law and for teaching. And again, I love chemistry. Where do we go with chemistry? What's that look like? And working through law school as a pharmacist, it's just, well, we don't want the pharmacy to have to be closed. So I can work as a pharmacist and study and be here. Let's go. I love it. I absolutely love it. Working through law school is challenging and wild, but I also love, he's like, and then I got paid. And it was great to work one day a week and get paid. It keeps balance. And that is a really needed thing in law. So thank you to everyone who gifted memberships. I appreciate it. I've seen a lot of you giving memberships. Thank you. Lacey Silver, Emotional Support Canadian. Good to see you in the chat. Sarah Simon, 4 months postpartum. Glad to finally catch a live. Congratulations. Sleep when you can. Hydrate. Do not take Alessi's sleep schedule. Do not. It is not wise. I don't know how the man functions on I don't know how he functions on such little sleep. I do not. And I also know that about myself. So sleep is a non-negotiable for me. And Pokemon sleep becomes a non-negotiable for me. So let us continue on. Crocker, thank you. Katie Jean said, asking law nerds to behave, that's asking for a miracle. Everyone was very respectful and I love it. It's only the cheekiness that we just rein in respectfully. Music to My Soul said, I can't wait for Alessi to elucidate many topics. Thank you. Cherry Bomb, I'm sure he will come back and look at the questions, who said, please tell him my Halloween costume is Shannon Burgess's bachelor degree. It's niche. And I think too many people are going to go as the couple from the freaking Jumbotron at Coldplay. So I think this is a appropriate, uniquely niche. You will find your people. Oh my God. We were traveling. Speaking of finding my people, Emily, are we going to talk about band? I mean, a little bit. We were traveling to go see T, and I forget which flight it was on. We were on numerous flights. One of them incredibly bumpy. I love seeing lightning from the airplane. I love a storm. You know how much I love weather. We didn't get to talk about a cat track of snow. But the bumpiness that can come with lightning and summer storms when you're flying, I love seeing the clouds lighting up. I do not love the motion sick that comes with how bumpy flights are. So a little bit of a rougher flight coming back home with the turbulence that made me motion sick. Griffin was like, this is great. I'm like, oh my God. But on one of the flights, there were a number of women wearing fourth wing clothing. And I was like, and mentioned to one of them that I appreciated her shirt and her hat. She's like, oh, we are having a girls' weekend and we have planned our Airbnb and we have planned our books and we are having like a girls' weekend reading retreat. And they all had clothing related to Fourth Wing. I'm like, this is the greatest girls' trip ever, to just lean in to the thing that you love, the books that you love. And we had such a lovely chat in the airport about their planned girls' weekend. I just loved it so much. And it's just so fun to see people just being like, we're going to get together. We're going to nerd together. We're going to have so much fun. So it was nice. But when you wear the things that you love, other people can just be like, I love that thing too. Because I love that thing too. So it was really fun. For those of you like Fourth Wing, it's a book series. We didn't get to talk to Alessi about his reading habits either. It'll come up. We talked, well, I didn't know that there on the Sirius app, there was another lithium station. I'm learning new things and I love it. We didn't get to talk about books. So for those of you that are like lightning, Fourth Wing, that's exactly what the transition was in my brain. For all of you who clocked it, that was it. Kraken said, hopefully they flew to the correct airport. We got everywhere we were supposed to be when we were supposed to be there. I saw so many of you in Wisconsin. It was lovely. I had never been to Madison before. I've been to other areas of Wisconsin. I've never been to Madison. It was just absolutely lovely. I don't know if I can go back in the winter. I grew up in Southern California, y'all. I have never seen a fire hydrant that had like a stick on top of it so you can find it when there's snow. No. That's not a cat track of snow, y'all. That I don't know what the fuck that is, but that's a no for me, dog. I have never seen that in my life. I was like, there's a stick. There's a stick. There's a stick on the fire hydrant on the top. So what? I had never, ever. Just anyway, all of you are laughing and it snows here. Yes, laughing, it snows here. Madison was beautiful. The University of Wisconsin is gorgeous. If I had noticed them in Amherst, which is an if, because very ADHD and 18, I didn't drive when I was in Massachusetts. I didn't bring a car to school. And so I don't know if I even would have noticed walking around campus if they had been there. I wore Ugg boots and thought they were snowshoes until I fell and like cracked myself on the ass. Like I would not have noticed. But Dr. B and I drove around the campus, which is no small feat, at the University of Wisconsin. We're like, this is amazing. Like I can't winter, but this is amazing. We were so thrilled. We had such a lovely time. It was too short. Both of us were like, we need to be in Wisconsin a little bit longer. It was lovely. It was also so nice to have a night where the show was a bit cooler. I was also in the lot a little bit watching guard warm up, and two gentlemen were walking by and walked by me as I was kind of standing there with my cell phone and my camera and full band mom regalia. And these two gentlemen were just kind of walking. It was a lovely night. And we're just like, what is this? Because we were in a smaller school, not a university, well, a very large high school, but a smaller school compared to, well, University of Wisconsin or being at the Alamo Dome. And so there were people out walking in the neighborhood and heard the music and were just like, what? And then if you have never been to DCI before and you hear the music and you walk in that direction, there are buses and like 18-wheeler tractor trailers with different core logos on them everywhere. There's like a mellow section in a parking lot down the block warming up. There are batteries, just drumline warming up. You've got front ensembles elsewhere warming up because everybody's in their little section warming up. You've got guards all over the place and things flying in the air. And I can imagine walking over being like, what? So we had a lovely conversation. They walked up and bought tickets. They're like, we're going to go watch. I'm like, I mean, there's a number of cores left. And they're like, yeah, we're going to go watch. I was like, that's fantastic. And I got to see so many of you at that show. It was really, it was lovely. The weather was lovely. I'm sorry, Houston. Your university was lovely. Your weather is inhospitable. And I don't like to be able to drink the air that I breathe. And I don't have gills. And Houston's a different type of humid. It is just different. Wisconsin, cooler. I can't do winter in Wisconsin. I know this about myself, but it was really beautiful and lovely. And it was lovely to see all of you. It was so much fun. So thank you for coming up and saying hello. And it was, again, great to see my kiddo. And we're just getting ready to see him again. And just, I don't even know how many days, 10 days when we're going to get to see him in Indianapolis. So I'm just so glad. Lisa said, yes, you are basted in the heat. Like your clothes are wet. Your clothes are wet before you even leave. Humidity is my nemesis too, yet here I am in Jersey with 75%. I feel for y'all with the thicker air than I have. The humidity is real. It's just real. I didn't get to see any horses. I didn't, but I did get cheese. Of course I got cheese. Of course I got cheese curds. it's Wisconsin. There must be cheese. Also, the food director for the Cavaliers served quesadillas the evening that I was there. I was helping feed the core and handing out quesadillas. Not only were the core members so excited about the quesadillas, but I love that their food director also employs local foods. So they all got like local Wisconsin cheese quesadillas. And that was fantastic. I did another night helping feed, just literally handing out food to keep the line going faster, because there's 165 plus core members, and then all of the medical staff and instructional staff and core directing and what have you. And we had the best time. But Travis was chatting with me a little as I was serving food, and one of the core members came up and was like, "What are these?" Like the things I was handing out. I was like, "Okay, well, you've got corn dogs or corn dog bites." And he's like, "Okay, but what are these?" And I was like, "Well, this is the big corn dog, and those are just the smaller ones without the stick." And he's like, and Travis goes, "Mom, he's Dutch. Never seen a corn dog." And he's like, "That's true." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, hot dog wrapped in kind of like sweet corn. This one's on a stick. These ones are smaller." And he was like, "I've never." And I'm like, "I understand. You've never seen a corn dog. You're like, what the fuck is this food?" It was the first time they'd had corn dogs on tour. Apparently, the corn dog bites were very popular. It was fun. It was just really fun. It was fun to see the core. It's a lovely group of young men, and I say that because they are an all male core. It's just a lovely, lovely group, and it was really fun to just get to share with the core and get to see everybody, and you get to say hi as they're going through the food line. Also, serving food to a respectful group of core members who just move through a food line quickly is easy and lovely. So I also love working the snack bar. So, I don't mind, but it's fun. So, all right, let us continue. I know, Kimberly G. I love a corn dog, but I also grew up with, hot dog on a stick. So not only a corn dog, but cheese on a stick. Love. So yes, we did a full tour with T a little bit, and it was really fun. Miss Fan Culture Amanda said, "Thank you for both making law and justice accessible. I hope to at least make it understandable," which is needed, I think. Nicole said, "I'm waiting while my kiddo takes the bar, and last night I could hear the OSU band." I saw, Nicole, I saw your comment, not just in Super Chat, but I think in the Law Nerd Lounge. It might have been on Instagram. I'm not remember exactly where, but I remember seeing it. It's so lovely. The OSU band, the best damn band in the land. I'm sure the chat will debate away. Very Emily coded. And hi, Bob, I'm a pharmacist too. Lots of pharmacists in the Law Nerd chat. And also I love hearing a marching band from the lot. I do. It makes my heart happy. Live music makes me so, so happy. But you guys know that about me. And for those of you that have found or re-engaged with live music in any way, encouraged by me, because I will always encourage to buy the ticket, I'm glad for it. Let's see. LB said, Alessi and the New York Times need to pair up to add to its game app Wordle spelling bee standards and Alessi's word of the day. Oh my God, I love that so much. I love it so much. Love HR. Puffin Stuff said, "Mr. Alessi, you're such an inspiration. If I was young, I'd be going to law school. You and your team were fantastic with Karen Reed. I've learned so much." I love HR Puffin Stuff. I can't ask him, what do you think actually happened? John, there's a lot of information that the defense team is going to have that we don't have. Some under seal, some not. Conversations with Karen. So it's just not a question I would put him in the position to have to decline to answer. So it's a hard thing because we will not have that conversation with Mr. Alessi because he just can't. So it's really fun. Luciana, I don't know, Mr. Alessi, we would love to see you react to a few of Emily moments. That that I think I would just be embarrassed, but we will talk more again about this trial and social media, but we also got to talk about the behind the scenes, which Alessi travels with the things to take care of himself, which is important. He's got his Chirp Wheel and bands and is ready to go. It's so necessary. FL fan said Robert Alessi for Supreme Court. I think if Alessi was going to lean in the direction of being on the bench, he probably would have done it already. I will, if we get a chance to ask him again, I will ask him because I am sure many have come up to him and said, you need to be a judge. Brittany said Riznetti. I mean, we are welcome. We are welcome to refer to Mr. Yanetti as such. Can't wait for the podcast because I have questions. I know. We definitely got a few word of the days today, I think. And we're going to have to go, I'll find that filing so that we can get that filing done. But I will find that filing. Sarah Berry, this was on my list and then I got distracted talking about rugby, but it's on my list and we will talk about it next time because I wanted to talk about his note-taking in court too. Very, very much. So I know we need, both Alessi and I need more time to chat, but it's also why I asked him if we could just do a one-on-one interview because even at almost 2 hours, there still's not enough time to get to all the things we want to talk about because we could just talk for hours. I do what I do. I appreciate that other people appreciate what I do. I have found that I lean into the thing that I like to do, and I appreciate that. It's what I like to do, and it's same with the DA's office. It's like, this is my job. I like to do it, so it's nice to be able to lean into that and have people appreciate that is a unique skill, because for me, it is something that is just ingrained in the way my brain works, which is the same for Alessi. Like, it's, you heard him talk about getting to use language. I also really held back from being like, sporadic. Try to use it in a sentence today. Yeah, I'll be seeing you. Hope not sporadically. Like, I was fighting for my life to not just quote Clueless at Alessi and have him just blink at me and go, wait, what are we talking about? Clueless. We're talking about Clueless because vocabulary was one of their goals as well. So Heather, again, thank you. Definitely. I learned more about Alessi today than in other interviews. I really did want to talk about him and his journey and his story. And he does so much outside just law. And I find a lot of, especially high performing lawyers, tend to have a lot of energy for all kinds of things that they're nerdily interested in. But when I saw rugby on LinkedIn, I was like, this is some East Coast shit that law school has rugby. Like, this is some Ivy League East Coast, and I love it. I know that there was stuff our law school had. I love it. But I was like, I want to go home and I want to go home and play video games. Emily, what did you want to do in law school? Look, if my law school had like a GTA league, I definitely would have participated. So if there was an esports team, which didn't really exist then, I was like, I want to go play video games. That's where my brain is happy. I just let me GTA. I probably should have been out running around. I definitely wasn't. Also, after getting injured in college, I was just like, I am going to hurt myself. And that's the one thing I definitely don't have time to do. But gaming kept me sane in law school. Really, really did. Which I still enjoy. And now my kids just wreck me at it. I do not process as quickly as the games now move, but we've got a Nintendo Classic and I love playing Bubble Bobble. It's still hard. I still play Suika. Dr. B has just started playing Suika. That's a conversation for later. Janine said, can you believe the guy is suing Coldplay? Oh, it's on my list. It's on my list. Someone's never heard of the Streisand effect. Also, you're in a public place. So Good luck. I'm interested to see it. I'm interested to see it. We'll talk about it because look, here's one thing I learned as a DA. Not life advice, but life advice. Not legal advice, I guess, life advice. Don't be where you're not supposed to be. Don't be with who you're not supposed to be with. People will do all kinds of wild things to conceal the fact that they're where they're not supposed to be or who they're not supposed to be with. You can't control the world, the universe, or circumstance, or karma. And trying to, like, there were times that people would bolt because they had somebody in the car that wasn't supposed to be there. They were where they weren't supposed to be. And people start making not the best choices when they are trying to conceal something that they are not supposed to be doing. And we saw it immediately. It wasn't like Coldplay guy or CEO of whatever. I don't really want to give the company more information or talking points, but CEO guy had the visceral hide reaction, right? Like hide. And people have very visceral reactions when caught. And so don't be where you're not supposed to be because you never know what's going to happen. You're in a car with somebody you're not supposed to be with. What happens if that car gets hit by another car and you become a witness to something? What are you going to do? How are you going to explain why that person's in your car? What are y'all up to? What's going to happen if, I don't know, you're in a dorm room you're not supposed to be in and the fire alarm goes off and everybody's filing out of their dorm rooms. And there you are walking out of a room with somebody you're not, well, that we all know is not the person that you're dating. So yeah, you sure didn't think. Emily, this sounds like personal experience. Oh yeah. You didn't think the fire alarm was going to go off. You knew that the person you were dating wasn't going to be around, but everybody else saw it. Don't have somebody in your room that's not supposed to be there, huh? Because we all know. Is this a real life story? Yes. I lived in a very large dorm. So, when the fire alarm goes off. David, hold on. I've got to grab this comment. I just saw it. Where did it go? Where did it go? D said if they didn't act like that, no one would have known anything was going on. The thing is, they couldn't not because it was just a visceral reaction. It was just a subconscious reaction. You don't think through it in the moment. You just respond. And the response was hide. Devin Ramirez said, my uncle was in a car with his mistress when they had an accident. Call it karma. Call it the universe. Call it whatever you want. Don't be where you're not supposed to be. Don't be with people you're not supposed to be with. That's all. And if he or she were separated or this wasn't a thing, they wouldn't have responded that way. It was a full, Julie, exactly. It was a full fight or flight. Full fight or flight. Even if they had just frozen and waved, it would have been different. It was a full flight for both of them. Flight. So it was wild. Oh, Harley in the chat. Don't be where you're supposed to be with people you're not supposed to be with. It will come to light. Harley in the chat said, my uncle had a heart attack in bed with mistress. All of you in the chat are saying, don't be suspicious. 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 Right? Don't be suspicious. Don't be where you're not supposed to be. Not going to be a problem. But I don't know. Humans crave excitement. Play more video games, folks. They're incredibly challenging. There's other ways to find excitement in life. Lord. Tara said Alessi made fetch happen today. He did. I'm sure I blushed. It was very sweet. Corey said, I have not heard fetching in a long time. So fun. Love learning more about law since watching you. EDB, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Let's see. DCI in India is going to be showing at my movie theater. I've seen a lot of that, Janice, and we are going to have a code for you guys soon for flow marching. So we will have that soon too for those of you that want to watch Allentown to finals, and we will be working on things for next season too. This season went by so quickly. I'm sure it feels long to the performers, but they're now at the part of the season where it starts to feel quick. Lindsay says, speaking of video games, are you getting Tales of the Shire? You get your own fully customizable Hobbit home. I have a list of things I need to catch up on game wise. We will see, because I've truly been mobile gaming quite a bit more than I've even been playing my Switch, just because I've been sadly too busy. And then I get very, very salty when I don't have time to keep up and play. But I also am a little salty with the direction a lot of games are going in. I don't necessarily want to buy a game and an online subscription and a console and an online subscription that might change. I am old. Look, I am old. I want to buy a game that I can play, whether I am online or not online. I want to buy a game and play it. So I am also a little salty about how much games need some type of subscription to play, because also the games, as I was growing up, some of them were incredibly difficult. So you could play a game for months and months on end. You didn't need DLC content. You didn't need subscription content. You didn't need, the game itself was a fully fleshed out, enjoyable and challenging game. They were hard games to play. They were hard games to beat. And I don't want to have to do everything digitally. I want just to be able to buy a game and play it. Also, old school Zelda was fucking challenging. And I have ADHD, so like squirrel. I mean, my notebooks for Zelda to try to keep up with where I was in a game, it takes work, but it was fun. It was fun. So I will look at whether or not CEO whatever is suing Coldplay. We'll talk about it. And when we do, we can talk about Gwyneth Paltrow's commercial. Well, you know, being the ex-wife of Chris Martin, it is a strong media play. So the PR is in full force and effect. Full force and effect. Michael Peppertech said, just remember the hardest part, don't panic, let somebody go. Adventures of a Lifetime, Sparks Trouble, all Coldplay songs. Yes. Yeah. They should have. They should have learned the don't panic, let somebody go, because it would have gone different. But again, maybe it wasn't supposed to, right? We also, you're not really hiding any secrets if you're at a fucking Coldplay concert. These are massive concerts. Also, they do the Jumbotron cam every single show. It's not new. It's not new. Bethany, I enjoy tabletop games. Where I end up being challenged is keeping up memory-wise with where we're going. So I like things I can play in one sitting is what I tend to lean into. So that's what I enjoy. Because with how much we're doing here and then other life stuff, I will forget. So we do a lot of that. Some of you are asking if the Gwyneth Paltrow video was real. Yeah, that's my understanding that it was real. 100%. So Amanda said, but Emily, they were in a suite. Right. That's right. Being rich apparently keeps you from the masses. No one will see you. Except it's the most visible fucking thing if you're standing at the edge of your suite. Everyone's looking at you. Oh my God. Yeah. Xena Warrior said, I love the Tomb Raider games. Now my obsession is Fortnite. I really enjoyed the Tomb Raider games. I really enjoy them. One of my biggest regrets is getting rid of some of my older consoles and older games. Because I was like, you know, back in the day when things were still backwards compatibles, I was like, oh, it'll be fine. I should have kept my old consoles, just plugged them in and played, because there were some games I definitely miss. I shouldn't have gotten rid of it. And then I'm like, no, we got a new, I don't need it. Damn it. Hindsight's 2020. I wouldn't have gotten rid of old consoles. I wouldn't have gotten rid of old games. So I wouldn't. I also played in college. We had mud servers. And so I played mud server games. So very much enjoyed it. If I am very, very much fortunate that my life and work kind of missed the World of Warcraft window, because the mud servers really derailed my attention to like life. And that would have been the same with WoW. I was too busy at the DA's office to properly get into WoW when it came out. And if I had, I think I probably would have lost my job. I get very sucked in. So I need games, which is what I love about mobile gaming, like Pokemon Sleep. I need games I can put down. I need to be able to put it down, play a little bit and put it down and just pick it right back up, because especially the story-based mods, like I just wanted to be there all the time. So I just couldn't. I know WoW is what started the subscription model. I know. But mods were so fun. They were so fun. So I've had to change the way that I game. Which makes sense for me. But I do still look, I'm old school. I do still love me some Pokemon Go. I like the Pokemon games. I still have my 3DS and I enjoy them. I might take my 3DS to record some DCI just for the lulz and the memes. So Stephanie H said, thank you for the ICU company. I'm sorry that you were in the ICU, and you are welcome for the company. We are always here. But of course, when anything like gaming, know thyself is the best. So I know that I need cases that I can put down. So that is important for me to know myself. And I learned. So anything that keeps pulling me back in, I have to stop. Crew Kid said, I have fanboyed for attorneys thrice, while Martinez in the Arias case, Camille Vasquez in the Heard case, and Bob Alessi and Dave Yanetti in the Reed case. It's nice to see people that are conscientious about what they do, are passionate about what they do, are enthusiastic about what they do, and are optimistic about what they do. And you can tell. And when people are doing great work in law, you see it. And there's tons of cases that Alessi would have handled in the work that he does that are incredibly important, massive cases that the world will never really see, because they are not the type of cases that would be streamed, that even the clients on either side would want streamed. But there's a lot of law that goes unnoticed and not observed. And so it's really nice to see attorneys doing excellent work that is in a position to be observed, and for people to see what a difference excellent attorneys can make. And the Reed case defense team were excellent attorneys, and you saw them work together and you saw what a difference it made. I know also for many of you, it made it frustrating to look at this and go, if this is how many attorneys it takes to undo something that shouldn't have been filed, that's my opinion on the Reed case, what chance do all of us stand? And I think that's where you see a lot of the frustration and outrage from those living in Massachusetts, from you in the chat. Watching so many attorneys at the top of their game trying to stem the tide and going, oh my God, if this is how much effort and energy it took to push back on what was happening in this case, what happens if you can't? And that is, I think, the core of the frustration in watching the Reed case, is how much it took, but also seeing an attorney like Alessi say, look, I know that there is going to be a cost to my firm, because his firm, when he's doing pro bono work, he still gets paid. His team will still get paid. His firm was able to say, we as a firm stand by you. The client doesn't need to pay. We've got it. We've got the pro bono on this. We can do this. But also his clients, the opportunity cost, and others in his firm saying, we support you. Go do the right thing. Because you go to your firm and say, I want to do this and spend this much time because I believe it is the right and just thing to do. And because of the trust and relationship he had with Yanetti. I trust this attorney. I trust his intuition. I trust how he sees the case. And I trust that this is a good use of not just my time and resources, but my firm's time and resources to move to Massachusetts and work on this case. It is a huge undertaking. And I think sharing that, let me know in the chat if sharing that from him gave a different perspective on what pro bono means, because it doesn't, you can think about it means that they're not taking payment from the client, but it doesn't, it's always not well understood the other sides of that. And I hope that it helped understand help everyone understand the undertaking that is going to your firm and saying, so, hey, I've got an idea. This is what I would like to do. And this is not just the cost of my work product and billable over this time, but also the cost of not moving things forward and taking new cases. It's a big cost. And it is really not discussed enough that was a massive undertaking for a firm to do. And they don't always do that. So a lot of you are saying, yeah, it really helped a lot, because taking on a case pro bono on appeal is more finite. You know what motions you're going to file. You can anticipate the amount of time differently. In trial, it's not necessarily the same. You can't apportion it the same way. So all of you are like, yes, I understood much better. Wonderful. I hoped so. And I'm glad that it did. So that was part of why I asked. Jordana said, wow, is still very much alive and well. Ever heard of classic hardcore? It has eaten my life literally and been worth every minute. I haven't, but I will look. Or maybe I won't. No, I will. I'll definitely look. Kay said, watching drinking from my new Lawnard tumbler. We still, for the Lawnards that are like wearer cups, we still have a very few of the pyramid spiky Lawnard tumblers in the Lawnard shop. We are working on restocking these Lawnard tumblers. So, Muzzarolina, is this the judge case? I don't know the name off the top of my head. There are a couple cases on my list that we will be circling back to. So if it is the judge case, which I think it is, but I'm not 100% sure, it is on my list to take a look at for sure. Lori NCT said, don't most large firms have their employees do a certain amount of pro bono work? The firms normally take a certain amount of pro bono work, but it is not murder trial pro bono work. It is definitely more discreet type of work. So we will, you guys are telling me it's a different case. I'll take a look. I will put it on the list to take a look. I can't tell you if I will or if I won't, because I will take a look. I don't know the facts of that case. So I don't know the facts of that case. I have been trying to catch up on our past cases and traveling. And honestly, one of the things I really love about DCI is I am very offline when I am traveling to do DCI stuff with my kiddo. And I really love how present live music is. It is an incredibly present thing. And I really enjoy that. Lindsay said, how do I get my kid involved trial for DCI? I was in marching band in high school and a fellow band nerd invited me to a show in Houston, Texas in 1999. I had no idea what I was seeing and was blown away. It depends, A, how old your kiddo is, because they age in at 16. B, what your kiddo likes to do. And I would say get involved in either guard or music and talk to your local band directors, depending on where you live. Most of the tryouts start with a video or online component. I would also look at tryouts as an opportunity to learn, even if you try out before you intend to make it, because the tryout process helps you learn and grow as a performer. And watch we will have a link for Flow Marching if you want to watch finals, or find a show near you. There are tons and tons of shows on the DCI circuit. We're getting to the end of this year, but there's next summer. But take a look at what's local and just go watch a show. Go watch a show. Get seats way high up, because it's better to see the band. Get seats way high up. Go watch a show and see if they are also inspired. Our high school band goes and watches DCI when it's here in Middle Tennessee. And Travis had gone to a band camp this one time had gone to band camp and seen the Cavaliers perform and was incredibly inspired by it. Also, DCI is drum and bugle. It is drums and brass and, percussion front ensemble. So if your child is leaning heavily into woodwind instruments, there is not a ton of woodwind happening in DCI, though there are some woodwind feature performers, but they normally also play a brass instrument. So, dude, drums are fucking fun. Brass is amazing. Front ensemble is super cool. So it's really just what they want to do, because front ensemble also, different type of performance. Every DCI corps I've seen has timpani players as well. It's so fun. They do the bass drum ripples. I just freaking love it. So let them be inspired by exposing them to it, whether it's just grabbing videos off of YouTube or going in person. That is the best way. And then DCI.com, not sponsored, but DCI.com has a lot of information on the different corps and what their tryouts look like. And you can get the tryout videos and start to see what is required. So, and then there are open corps, and depending on where you live, there are different corps that have younger age group corps that kind of feed into DCI that you can start 10, 11 years old or younger. That's very cool. Nikki Brown said, I found an old trombone in my attic. Amazing. Just amazing. So it's fun. And I look, it is the thing I am spending most of my energy doing at the moment. And it's been fun to be re-engaged because my kiddo loves it. And I love it too. Not that I wouldn't love anything my kids do. There's a different enthusiasm I have for different sorts of things. Am I the biggest soccer fan in the world? No. Am I telling you that I don't love soccer? No. I mean, but is it my favorite thing to sit and watch? No. Like, would I choose willfully to go sit and watch soccer? No, I wouldn't. But am I going to turn and sit down and watch a marching band any fucking time I see them? 100%. But I have been since I was a kid and went and sat with the marching band when my dad was working football games as an administrator. So I've always loved hanging out with the band. If you find yourself listening to drums and marching in time when you walk, it might be part of you too. So it's just what I enjoy. So it makes me really happy. Meta said, I marched with the Blue Coats when I went to BOA camp. I did the marching track and we had dots in the show around the corps. It's so cool. And music education really is needed. And I know that there are times that people don't see how much music education is needed, but it teaches people a lot about themselves, a lot about each other, and a lot about life. And music is a great way to learn to work together with a group, and you learn to push yourself. It is a necessary endeavor. And I love percussion. Emily, we're so shocked that hitting things was your favorite part of band. Shocking. Drums are, I mean, all of band is physical. Drums are a different kind of physical. It's a different type of satisfying. What does G think of DCI and watching T perform? He does not love the hot. He does not love a football game. He does not love the hot, but he does enjoy seeing brother perform. The less crowded, the easier it is for him. The more crowded, the more overwhelming it can be. So we try to navigate that with him. We went and got to see some of a practice, and he was so engaged because he got to just be and just watch without there being a ton of other folks around. So it's really nice for him to get to enjoy it and then get to find his own way. But it is a little more challenging for him when it is hot, but we find ways. Let's see. Christy said, I love this channel. I never fail to learn, and your humor is my jam. Well, thank you. We see, we get to talk about all of it. Let's see. All of you, thank you for the compliments. I appreciate it. Murfan, I'm noting this down to ask because I am sure that Alessi has a favorite Triceratops or favorite dinosaur. And this joke is 10-10. Mr. Alessi, what is your favorite dinosaur? Mine is a Triceratops because they have both a shield and sword. Plus they're cool looking. I love it so much. We have I have another 2 hours of questions for Mr. Alessi. I really do. We'll just do it again, which will be great. And we'll talk to some of the other lawyers if they would like to. And I'm sure we will talk to Alessi and Yanetti together as they get ready to embark on their adventures in podcasting. Even though, I mean, YouTube is the number one place now to watch podcasts. So their YouTube adventure, but we're here. Anna said, this is so inspired. Been trying to develop a workout habit for a very long time. Watch this episode while working out. Thank you very much for the encouragement. You're welcome. Remember, Alessi is coming from, and it sounds like Yanetti too, from the history of being athletes at a very high level. So their workout might look different, but movement is important. And when I give advice, people are like, advice for law students, look, hydrate. Sleep is at the top of my list because your brain needs it, unless you're Alessi, whose brain apparently doesn't need it. Every human is different on their sleep needs. Know your sleep needs and meet them. If you are a 9-10 hours of sleep need, you cannot rock with 4. If your sleep need is lower, rock with it. You need to hydrate. You need to move. Whether it is a walk, dancing, putting on a fitness Marshall video, whatever it is, you have to find a way to move. It helps our brains. Physical, repetitive activity, gardening, lets your brain process other thoughts when there's no other input. It is needed. So whatever it is, for some of you, it's cleaning. I know. For some that are like cleaning, yes, repetitive physical activity. It helps. And there is something cathartic about cleaning when you choose to, not because you have to. When you have to, it's stressful. When you choose to, it can be very relaxing and it's lovely. So let's see. Jennifer said deep sleep is necessary. I know it is. I would love to put an Aura ring on Alessi and see how fast he ends up in deep sleep. I'm so curious. Lauren said right now gardening is saving me during RA flare-ups. It's lovely. There are definitely ways to engage in movement. So, Megan said, I really would love to hear Eliza Little talk. I want to hear her sing. We'll see if she shares. I will email her again. I had emailed probably when she was getting slammed with emails and requests, and see if she would like to share her journey in law, organization, how her memory works, because the tip of her fingers every single time something was needed. And it was lovely to see. And that's a different type of work. Everybody has a role, right, in advocacy, and having things at the tip of your fingers and anticipating what's needed is such an incredible thing to see and to watch play out. Lauren M said, I'm usually always watching stream while working out. I save a lot of shows. Oh, I have a bug bite. I save a lot of shows for when I am walking too, or podcasts, for sure. Let's see. Being Me said, I agree. There are a few games I missed that was only on old consoles. Me too. Like OG Guitar Hero, the Skylanders games. When my kids were like, oh, we're kind of done with Skylanders, we gave them away and we gave them to other kids and what have you. And now I'm just like, God, I miss those games. They were so much fun. So there's definitely things I miss. Melinda, fun fact, I taught aqua aerobics way back in the day. I love aqua aerobics. Love. Pool dance parties are the best. They are. Our gym locally won't let you sign up unless you're like 55 plus. I'm like, my knees are 55 plus. I can show you my x-rays. You can please? I would love to. I love aquatic workouts. So it's so much fun seeing you guys chat about it. Lawnards, we are going to have to wrap up. Oh my God, the bug bites though. I don't know where this one came from, but it found me. The bug bites will get you. We absolutely need to wrap so we can stream tomorrow. We've got lots of legal topics to cover. I've got to narrow them down and decide. So we streamed today with Mr. Alessi. We will stream tomorrow. Next week, well, you guys need the Lawnard app. I will keep you in the loop there, so you will never miss a notification. You will never be like, oh my God, when is Emily streaming, not streaming? We will keep you in the loop in the app. I haven't even pulled up my calendar. I can't believe it's the end of July, Lawnards. I'm dying. I can't believe it's the end of July. But do you know what that means? That means my kiddo's going to be home soon. I also have some obligations for high school band that we are going to have to get into. So there is lots and lots coming up. But next week is already the end of the week is finals. So we're going to have streams the rest of this week and then early next week. And then it's finals. And then I will be gone for finals. If you are going to be in Indy for finals, I will be around in the stadium. If you see me, just yell my name and say hello. I will see you. I've been asked a lot if we're doing a meetup. It is very much a band mom time for me. And the season is gone so fast. I kind of need to get my footing. I have not been to Indy before for finals. I have not navigated that yet. And that is a little difficult to plan and organize amidst so much else going on because I don't really know what the schedule is going to look like. And I would like to be flexible for that for me and for G. So we're going to navigate this year and then we'll figure it out for next year because all of this has happened so fast. But I will be recording behind the scenes things from Indy and sharing those as I have Cell, because I have found at a lot of the DCI events, everyone's on their phone and the ability to post goes way down, but we'll get that together. So Lawnards, I can't believe it's the end of the month. I will see you tomorrow. We will stream. We have lots of legal topic. Xena Warrior said, does Dr. B go to band events too? Yes, we do. Not every single one that I've been to this year, but we do most of them together because we want to see our kiddo. And then Griffin is like, why do we all have to go? Because there's times he's like, I just want to be at home and do my thing with my friends. And I'm like, I know. So we are almost at the end of the season. And then my travel is not going to slow down. It's going to be a busy month. By the end of September, it should be slower. But we've also got trial coming up with Donna Adelson. If that doesn't get put off, I need to go check rulings. Tomorrow we will do catch up. I need to narrow down what we're going to talk about because I can't talk about everything I want to talk about because we'll be here for 100 years. Tomorrow we are going to stream and then we will be back next week streaming Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't know if I'm going to be able to stream Thursday. It's going to depend on when we're leaving. I need to negotiate that. I haven't figured it out yet. So the long and short of it is get the Lawnard app. If you are in the member spaces, I need to do a tech test at some point in addition to another members only live. So we will be doing a shorter tech test. I'm just not exactly sure when. I need to look at my windows of time. Lawnards, we have lots to do. Get the app. Wait, that's not the right. What was I looking for? This one. Get the Lawnerd app, lawnerd.com. It's free on iOS and Android. It is fantastic. It will keep you in the loop. Turn your notifications on, and then you won't miss a thing. All right, Lawnerds, you are the best. Mods, thank you. Thank you for joining me for an interview and a kind of an I Have Questions for Mr. Alessi episode here over on the live channel. And for those of you on the replay crew, thank you. You know, if you have other questions, we will for sure be talking to Mr. Alessi again, and I look forward to it. Also, he'll probably grab those questions for the podcast that he has coming up. So I'm sure he will see them one way or the other. With all of that, Lawnerds, you are the best. I love spending this time together with you, having a conversation about life, law, retro gaming, and marching band. So for now, I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you don't miss a live stream or any of the updates on the cases that you care about most with the Lawnerd app at lawnerdapp.com. It's a free download on iOS and Android, so I can keep you in the loop, because you never know when something's going to pop off. Thanks for being here, and thanks for being a Lawnerd.